Everyone, if I could have you start to take your seats so that we could get started. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order September 16th at 9 a.m. If I could have you stand for the invocation.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Lord, thank you for this day and for the opportunity to serve our community. In times of national uncertainty, remind us of the power of local leadership to bring people together and move us forward. Bless this board with wisdom and purpose. May our decisions today reflect integrity, fairness, and the common good. We also give thanks to all those who serve in local government, often behind the scenes, working each day to make the country stronger, safer, and more connected. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. And today we have Dianara Morrison leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning again, everyone. If I could remind you to silence your cell phones. We have a full house this morning. Before I get started, so I don't forget, I'd like to acknowledge we have with us this morning Linda Mayor Hudson of Fort Pierce, School Board Member Debbie Hawley, and Donna Mills, and Superintendent John Prince, and anyone else I'm forgetting, I apologize, but good morning. We're happy you're here with us. And what we're going to do really quickly is recess for our special district meetings. And with that, we will move into mosquito control.
At this time, I'd like to call the Mosquito Control District meeting to order. First on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Seeing none at this time, we'll go on to the next on the agenda. Looking for approval of the minutes. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the consent and warrants. Need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. There's nothing on the regular agenda. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
All right, and we will go ahead and move into our erosion control.
We'll now come to order as the Erosion Control District. At this time, if anybody has any public comment, please come up to the podium. We'll go ahead and close public comment at this time for the Erosion District. Can I get an approval of the minutes for August 18th and September 2nd, 2025?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That's the end of the agenda. We are adjourned.
All right, thank you. And moving on to the Sustainability District.
Good morning. We come together as a sustainability district, and the first item of business is public comment. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and address the board? Seeing no movement, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Do we have approval from the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to the regular agenda. First item of business is Energy Special Assessment District. Barb?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, Barbara Gettler, MSBU Coordinator. One of the funding methods available for energy conservation and renewable energy improvements is to levy non-ad valorem assessments on those properties which derive a direct benefit from the improvements. This type of assessment is based on benefit and collected along with property taxes using the uniform method pursuant to Section 197.3632 of the Florida statutes. In order to preserve this funding option, it is necessary for the board to adopt a resolution expressing its intent to use the uniform method of collecting commencing in November 2026. The resolution must be considered at a duly advertised public hearing held prior to January 1st, 2026. The resolution does not in any way obligate the county to levy the special assessments. Rather, it simply satisfies the legal requirement preserving the county's option to use a uniform method of collection if special assessments are levied. Staff recommends board adoption of the Energy SAD Notice of Intent Resolution and authorization for the chair to sign documents as approved by the county attorney.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair, I have a question. What do we use this for, specifically, just for the public that's listening?
This is for the PACE projects that we were approving. They were going through us and through the SELF program. So we still have some, we're not doing that program anymore, but we still, until the loans are paid off, I have to bring it to the board every year. So there's nothing new on this. This is just to renew it for the next year because assessments are levied every year for this, for the
Okay.
properties that are already on it.
All right, thank you.
Any other comment, question? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
This is a
It's a public hearing,
Public
Madam
hearing,
Chair,
sorry.
yeah, public hearing.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to approach the board? Seeing no movement, then do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Seeing how there's no other items on the agenda, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll come back to our regularly scheduled meeting and looking for a motion for the approval of the agenda with the additions, deletions, and revisions as provided.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we have two presentations today. We have St. Lucie County Public Schools, Building on Excellence, a Year in Review and What's Ahead. Dr. Prince, whenever you're ready, you are welcome to come up. And as you do so, I just want to give a little better explanation. So the young lady sitting next to me is Dianara Morrison. She is a second-time participant in the Shadow the Commissioner. She's a senior at Treasure Coast High School, but also dually enrolled in Indian River State College. So given our presentations today, very applicable. So, floor
First
is
of all,
yours.
Good morning. I almost said good afternoon. I'm just very excited to be here with the County Commission. I know a few of you were at our kickoff, so some of this is going to be redundant information. I have had some comments for those of you in the viewing audience. We did have a teacher kickoff, and I was dressed far differently. Had a very nice gold jacket that I get a lot of comments about, but I decided not to wear that today. But it's just an update. Also, we have for your distribution our Year in Review book. That's something we publish annually, just kind of our brag, some things that we're happy about and we brag about. And also our career and technical education programming guide. And one of our strongest strengths I'm going to hit on today is career and technical education, workforce development. We have 55 different programs that we have and offer in our schools preparing kids, and we're actually going to expand on that. So I'm going to jump right in, and I was told actually to point this way. There we are. So we are an A-rated district, and for almost 30 years, school districts have been graded by the state of Florida, and this past year, St. Lucie County Public Schools earned its first A in its history. So that was quite a remarkable accomplishment. And I can say that superintendents don't raise student achievement, teachers raise student achievement, but we all play a role, and those roles are really about relationships. And speaking of relationships, I want to talk real briefly. Up on your screen is images of the 5 school board members that kind of stir the drink in our district. And we have a great relationship, or I do, with our school board. I want to thank 2 of them are here today, Dr. Donna Mills, our chair, and Miss Debbie Hawley. So thank you. And also, I do have some district leadership. I asked them to stand up, because if anybody from the public wants to have any concerns or complaints about our school, don't chase me out, chase one of them. So district leadership, we've got our principal supervisors, our chief of schools, Dr. Craig Summer, Mr. Terrence O'Leary, Wave, chief operating officer, Helen Wild, the best deputy superintendent in the state of Florida, and my chief of communications, Lydia Martin. So I'm going to jump in. So if you're crossing Prima Vista and exiting onto I-95, that is the district office building, you may have seen a small bit of signage on the side. We have a 3-story building. I'd like to thank our Ed Foundation for paying for that sign, but we are shouting it at the rooftops about our A rating. And it's not the first one we're going to earn, because we're going to continue on that path. And it's not just the first. It's like, I feel like LeBron, not 1, not 2, not 3. I'm just joking, people. Okay, all right. But we're going to get a lot of them. Okay, so the Treasure Hunters Pledge. When I first came here, we're a treasure hunter district, and prior to every board meeting, not only do we say the Pledge of Allegiance, but we also recite the Treasure Hunters Pledge. And I always make the joke, when I first got to the district, I thought it was like a cult. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, this is kind of weird. But then it struck me, that last line, and it's really this: I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. And one thing I found is not everybody in our system believe that. And if you don't believe in kids, you don't belong in front of kids. And we spent a lot of time focusing on efficacy, which is the belief in children, and that children can rise to expectations. No child ever rises to low expectations, and we have to set the bar high. So I talk about the intentionality of care. Disney is one of the most successful companies because they really have a product that focuses on kids. And even whenever they have their character, their princesses, their character training, they actually train the adults that whenever a kid hugs you, you don't let go in the hug until the child does. And that's intentionality. And what we want to focus on with our teachers is the intentionality of care. And this is a first-year teacher, and what I call a natural. You don't have to teach this person. She cares about, how do you make a child who's having a good day, how do you make their day better? Emily D'Souza, first-year teacher.
I made a rule for myself that I want to spend at least 5 minutes a day talking to each kid, whether that's how their weekend was or how their day is going, just so that I can have some kind of idea of how they're doing, and maybe if they're having not so good of a morning or something, I can turn it around, or if they're having a great day, I ask them what else can we do to make the day greater.
So I always say to my principals, would you want your kid to go to your school? And I have 4 children, and my kids always went to school with me, and I was a turnaround principal. That's what I did. And I wanted to make sure if I was in a turnaround situation that my children, I was proud to send my kids to those schools, and they came with me to those schools. Emily D'Souza is an example of what I want in front of every kid. Somebody that's going to try to make your day better even if you're having a good day. So we had 4 goals last year. The first was the half-penny surtax, which is basically for capital projects. We talk about all the new schools we're building, and we're growing at this exponential rate, but it's not about building new schools, it's about maintaining the schools that we have and making sure our oldest schools are first-class facilities for our students. And the voters were overwhelmingly supportive of that, almost 70%. We also opened Legacy on time, on budget, on schedule. That's off of Crosstown. I want to thank the county for a lot of the work that we did to make that possible, making sure the roads got built, the extensions got made. So we checked that box. I'm going to talk about reading and math, and really about the focus on the core. Reading, math, science, social studies. Those are our priorities for our kids. We want to make sure that they're getting high-quality public education. And then increasing acceleration opportunities. That is basically moving kids at a faster rate if they're ready to move. And I want to hit this first. So acceleration is really important. And we've done a great job at the middle school and high school. So let me tell you what acceleration is, first of all. So if you're in middle school, you're taking high school classes. If you're in high school, you're taking college classes. But we've really ramped up our elementary students moving through curriculum faster. If you look at the dark blue, 21-22, we had 481 elementary students in accelerated opportunities. And this past year, we had 1,250. Now, what that does is open doors for middle school students to take high school content. So we've done a wonderful job, and if you can actually see here, this is the number of students that are enrolled in college courses. We had a big dip my first 2 years as superintendent. That is a result directly of COVID. So we had a real regression once students got to high school of taking a dip, but we've rebounded in a very, very strong way. Remember COVID, because I'm gonna hit that again in just a minute when we talk about our grade performance. So this focus on the core, I always go with the scorecard because we want to compare ourselves to the state. How did we do versus how the state went? And it's really about early learning and early literature in K2. How do we build a love for learning? And it really, the foundational skills are set early. And I really want you to see Bailey. Bailey is indicative of what we want with our kids. This is Bailey talking about her love of reading.
I've actually started making books. I'm a published author, basically.
Yes, she's basically a published author. They've been making their own books. But and Bailey's in 2nd grade. That is not necessarily a grade that the state tests for accountability. So I want to focus on improvements in proficiency. This is our improvements versus the state. SLPS stands for St. Lucie Public Schools, and the state of Florida. And in almost every category, we improved at a higher rate than the state. And when I say scorecard, I always take a look, if we accumulate those levels of growth, what are we at versus the state? Usually we're flat, about the same as the state. But over the last few years, we are moving our students much, much faster than the state is. So the state was plus 21 in grades 3 through 10 reading. We were plus 43. Almost, not quite 2 to 1, but very close. And in math, this is Lila. By the way, I have 3 daughters. I always think, you always think your kids are so smart and gifted, and God bless them. I've never had one of my 4th grade children be this specific about math concepts.
My favorite thing I learned was math. I like all types of math, but my favorite part was doing order of operations.
Who talks like that? And it was difficult to pick which kid, because they were all very specific about the concepts, but Lila was literally, her favorite concept in math was order of operations. I was just like marveling. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But then you see it really translates, because if you look at us versus the state, look at some of the growth in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and even algebra and geometry versus the state. And cumulatively, for grades 3 through 9 and 10, where they take algebra and geometry, the state was plus 17. We were plus 46. Now, to tell you about the rankings, there are 67 counties in the state of Florida. Our improvement in proficiency in math ranked number 1 in the state out of 67 counties. Reading, we were no slouch. We ranked 8th in proficiency improvement in the state out of 67 counties. So we are crushing it. Not only are we crushing it in reading and math, we're doing great in math and science. If you look at 5th and 8th grade science and biology, the state was up 10. We exceeded that in 11. And then in U.S. history and civics, the state was up by 7. We were up by 12. And if we overall look at our scorecard, this is the state. They were plus 76 across all assessed areas. St. Lucie Public Schools was up by 120. Just incredible growth. Now, I also want you to orient you to 5th grade. Notice 5th grade for us is, we only have red numbers in 5th grade. Those students during COVID were the kids that got sent home the last 9 weeks. And then they went in 1st grade, that's where you kind of first learn how to read. Those students, half of them were home, learning virtually. So you can see how that challenge has manifested itself with our students, and we've spent a lot of time and effort trying to remediate those students, and we will continue to do so. So we met all our goals. We earned our A, really super happy, but I also want to share with you our school grades. So I arrived in 2015 as the deputy superintendent. I want to do a shout out to my predecessor who hired me, Mr. Gent. He's probably not watching. He's on a boat somewhere. But we had a lot of work to do. That 15-16 year, that's my first year as deputy superintendent. We had 9 DNF schools. That's almost a fourth of your schools are either rated a D or an F. And you can see in 23, 24, and 25, in 24 last year, or year before last year, we had no D or F schools. And then almost 80% of our schools are either rated an A or B. And our goal is we want all A-rated schools that are publicly run. And you can also see at the bottom the charters. We're actually performing better than our charter schools. So we have 4 goals. I'm not going to bore you with any of them except for one. Goal 1, though, is to really focus once again on continuing that trend in proficiency and making sure we're focusing on the core and we're continuing our ascent. We don't want to flatline. I'm going to hit to goal 3, and that's really rejuvenating and revitalizing our schools in the green zone. That's the Fort Pierce area. We have some very ambitious plans to combine some schools, build new schools, and keep it cost neutral to our taxpayers. Goal 4 is really about supporting mental health in our students, but it's not just our students, it's our staff members. I don't know if you've ever spent any time in a classroom. I know Mr. Clasby has, and Ms. Lowry has, but the longest day of my life was covering a kindergarten class. I can tell you right now, it's incredibly, incredibly stressful, very stressful, and we have to make sure that our employees have access and understanding of what supports there are for their own mental health. But I do want to focus on goal 2, which is really about classrooms to careers. Now, I spent a little bit of time at the beginning of my presentation on college readiness and students taking college courses, creating first-generation college students. Not every kid's going to go to college. My air conditioning guy makes more than I do, okay? By the way, my air conditioning guy at one point saw one of my presentations, and he came to me and goes, "I do not make more than you do." He did tell, he did. I was fact-checked by my air conditioning guy. So I said, "Well, bro, you make more an hour than I do." Anyway, so Classrooms to Careers is a very ambitious program where we're literally implementing leadership and development skills and an awareness for what careers are out there in elementary school, creating opportunities for them to explore different careers in middle school, and then high school is about experience, internships. We just worked to have 51 interns placed last summer, and the next few years that 51 is going to go to 500 and more, because we want to be a pipeline for our high schools to, when they walk out, they've got a job. I'm glad you're asking me about Classrooms to Careers, because guess what? I've got a video.
I'm Dr. John Prince, Superintendent of Schools for St. Lucie County. I'm excited to announce a new initiative called Classrooms to Careers, a comprehensive K-12 workforce development initiative between St. Lucie Public Schools and the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County. Starting in kindergarten with Play with Purpose, we're creating an awareness of local industries and job opportunities for elementary children. Students are taught teamwork, cooperation, and the soft skills necessary to succeed in the world of work. In middle school, it's all about exploration, where teenagers are exposed to interest inventories and participate in local career fairs sponsored by local industries. These experiences are designed for St. Lucie businesses to create excitement about the jobs they have to offer future graduates. Classrooms to Careers culminates in experience for our high school students, where students have opportunities to participate in pre-apprenticeships in local businesses, concluding in a high school career fair where students bring resumes, interview with employers, and receive job offers on the spot. A true school-to-work pathway where local industry partners directly with our school system to meet our community needs while providing important, high-paying careers to our graduates. St. Lucie Public Schools, working with our Economic Development Council, knows that together we can accomplish anything. Through Classrooms to Careers, we are building the future of St. Lucie County today.
So I always say this, and this is one of my favorite mantras, is public education, I do believe, is the genius of our democracy. I'm very transparent that I believe parents should send their kids wherever they want them to go to school. I've got 4 children. All my children are different, and my 4 children are products of public education. However, that's a decision a parent needs to make, and I'm fully supportive of that. And actually, competition is a good thing. So we've raised our game with the level of competition, and I do feel that we're a destination district in the sense I want to be the #1 destination for families, because families do have choice, and I want them to come to our schools. And the last question we ask kids we always go, okay, what do I do? You know, some people, I've got my leadership team, they're probably asking the same question right now. What does this guy do? You know, don't know. So we asked students, what does the superintendent do? This is what Layla said.
I have a hypothesis. Maybe they're the ones who help check the security cameras.
And there you have it. I check the security cameras. I'm always checking to make sure my people are working. But ultimately, I do believe all children are capable of success. I want to say thank you for allowing me to address the commission. Our partnership is very important. I do believe that we're a winning team together, and I appreciate that your collaboration, your leadership with the county, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you do each and every day. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'll open it up if you have any questions for me.
Absolutely. Any questions, comments from the board?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lee?
Just a comment, thank you very much for participating and combining your efforts with the EDC. I think the program that you have in place to get the children on track to either a career through trades or through college is spot on. So congrats, thank you. And anything we could do to assist that, we're in.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner
I
Lowry?
was going to say thank you, and this goes to show you that when you have great leadership, that it all trickles down to the teachers, to the students, what is going on in our district, and I appreciate the fine work done by everybody. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Fosby?
Just wanted to say, if you've never had the ability to go to the opening day festivities, it's quite the production. The school board definitely leverages a lot of their theater departments and lighting, and it's really good. Plus, you have one of the greatest showmen here as the superintendent. He has a really good character whenever he's doing it, and it's very entertaining. So it goes a long way for the morale of the teachers and everybody that are all watching it live streamed on Teams. So thank you for doing that, and I wish you guys a great school year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ditto to everything everyone said. I want to thank you for all your hard work and for that of your team, right? Because you're at the top, you get the pressure, you get the spotlight, but you've got some amazing people under you that help to carry out your mission and your vision. And I absolutely love the Classroom to Careers. I talk about it all the time. So just want to thank you again. And I know it's a presentation we don't typically, but you are here. So how about we memorialize this with a quick photo?
Oh, I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Come on up.
All right, come on,
And
team.
Mayor Hudson, why don't you come on up as well? All right, and with that, we have a second presentation this morning. We have IRSC Small Business Development Center Award presentation. Look at that, he's already set up. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. My name is Tom Kindred. I serve the community in the Indian River State College as the Regional Director for the Florida Small Business Development Center. I appreciate this opportunity this morning to present an award recognition to the county. But I first, very quickly, I promise I will move quickly through this, but I do just want to give a little update on the SBDC. So I kind of want to start with who are we, who am I, and who are you? So we'll go through this pretty quickly. Who are we? We are the Florida Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College. We are a federally funded program through the SBA. We are part of what's called the Florida SBDC Network. There are 9 centers just like us across the state of Florida. All are housed and hosted at academic institutions. We are the only institution at a state college. The other 8 are all at universities. We are the smallest center in the state of Florida. Our mandate and mission is simple. We are here to provide credentialed business consulting to entrepreneurs, small business owners to help them start, grow, and succeed in business. We are actually written into Florida law. We are state designated as Florida's principal provider of business assistance and training. This is our team. Again, we are the smallest team in the state of Florida. We've got a total of 10 and have at some point been as large as 12. Most of the other centers probably have staffs between 25 and 30. What do we do? If it relates to business, we can assist and have resources. We can help with business planning, marketing plans, capital access, government procurement, international trade. Just a quick little scorecard. I won't go through all those data points, but just a couple to highlight. We worked with 716 businesses in 2024, provided over 4,600 hours of consulting. 2 of our big numbers are important to small business owners as we helped our clients get access to about $13 million in capital, and we helped our clients gain access to $84 million in government contracting. And that is not an algorithm that we round up, round down, and that is real federal contracting, real state and local contracting for our clients. We also provide some training because our team is small. We really focus on that one-on-one consulting process, but we do provide some very high-end training programs, 2 of which are Profit Mastery, which is a 16-hour deep dive into better understanding, better managing your organization's financials. The other is we provide QuickBooks training. I don't really know how we call ourselves a small business assistance program if we don't teach and support QuickBooks. We also offer a digital media boot camp. So who am I? I'm just an old tractor salesman, but what makes my significance important in this conversation is I did own and operate 2 small businesses that were headquartered and located in this region. And unfortunately for me, the best education and the best experience I got was from the mistakes I made in business. It is so easy for me to get up here today and talk about the power and the value of the SBDC. The resources and the assistance program the SBDC provides is life-changing, and it could have been life-changing for me. I am quite confident had I engaged, understood, participated in the SBDC, I know I could have been a better manager, owner, and operator. So who are you? Our center's federal funding formula, the grant flows through the University of West Florida. We are a sub-center of that grant. So federal funding flows through UWF, and it's based on a couple of data points. Number 1, the number of small businesses, our total marketplace. So our center, our market, receives about 3.6% of the network's federal funding. However, last year, the SBDC at IRSC served about 4.6% of the clients across the state of Florida, the network. So we are truly punching above our weight class, all right? We are serving more than our federal guidelines would expect or suggest. So who are you? You are the partners, the collaborators, the stakeholders, the funders that make this center work. You are the reason we can provide these services across our region, all right? You are the reason this center can provide this resource. You are the reason we can achieve impact like this. For today's presentation, it is simple. I just want to say, number one, thank you for me, for our center, and for all of our clients for your support and assistance with this program. All right? And so with that, we every year hand out a half a dozen awards to those that we work with and collaborate with. And the award that I want to hand out today and recognize today is our Regional Resource Partner of the Year Award, which we presented to Regina McCants, St. Lucie County, and the Sunshine Kitchen Incubator. So let me just read very quickly our presentation. Well, hold on. Oh, I never flipped my pages. All right, here we go. The Sunshine Kitchen Incubator has been an outstanding partner in fostering small business growth and development within the St. Lucie County community. The Sunshine Kitchen Incubator has facilitated invaluable resources and opportunities for entrepreneurs and existing businesses. This collaboration between the St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners, the Treasure Coast Education, Research, and Development Authority, and the Sunshine Kitchen Incubator has been one of the most innovative partnerships within the Florida SBDC network. At the heart of the Sunshine Kitchen Incubator's impact lies its commitment to providing comprehensive support to small businesses through an interlocal agreement for small business consulting services provided by the SBDC at IRSC. The Sunshine Kitchen Incubator has established a framework for delivering consulting services to food entrepreneurs and business owners in St. Lucie County. This unique approach to entrepreneurship is further supported by the unwavering support of Sunshine Kitchen Incubator Director Regina McCants, who has demonstrated exceptional dedication to the mission of the SBDC. Through her steadfast commitment, Regina has created and continues to expand one of the region's most unique and powerful resources for Treasure Coast food entrepreneurs. The Sunshine Kitchen Incubator exemplifies the spirit of collaboration and innovation that drives economic growth in our region. By providing essential resources and prioritizing the success of small businesses, the incubator plays an important role in St. Lucie County's entrepreneurial ecosystem. As such, Regina and the Sunshine Kitchen Incubator are recognized as the 2024 Regional Resource Partner of the Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess if Regina would like to come forward, if she's here, we can. Regina, thank you. All right. Be happy to entertain any questions if you have them, or that concludes our presentation.
I wanted to say congratulations, and Regina, if you want to say a few words, but after that, I would love to get a picture with the board, with everybody. You are amazing, and we appreciate all you do at the Sunshine
Good morning,
Kitchen.
Chair. Good morning, Board, County Commissioners. I just want to say thank you. I'm not a public speaker, but I do accept this award, and I appreciate it, and I will continue to move the kitchen forward. Thank you, and I also want to acknowledge Mate Santa Maria. Without her leadership, I'm telling you, she's awesome.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She wants some of her team to come up.
We get two more of our team come up.
Make Mike get in the picture with you.
Maite, come on up here.
Carl, Deborah, Maite, come on up for the photo. There we go.
So now every
All
picture is gonna be
right,
like-
and that concludes our presentations for the morning. With that, I'll go ahead and open it up for general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board under general public comment? Good morning. As a reminder, if you could start with your first and last name.
Morning, Christopher Cassidy. My address is covered under Florida Statutes 119.07, therefore I will not provide my address. I do have a lot to say about how county employees affect the lives of residents, but I've decided to refrain from speaking today, maybe next meeting. As many are aware, or who are year-round residents, the weather has changed, and I'm going to go out and enjoy the day, and I hope you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board under general public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close general public comment, and we have 2 proclamations this morning. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2025-166, a resolution proclaiming September 2025 as National Service Dog Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Canine Companions for Independence believes in the joyful transformative power of human canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens. In the United States, 70 million adults have a disability, and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited training programs exist nationwide, and the need is growing. Canine Companions created the concept of service dogs for people with physical disabilities 50 years ago in 1975, creating a new kind of support for disabilities. Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships free of charge. Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. National Service Dog Month aims to educate all our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting their handlers. St. Lucie County continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens and their trained service dogs are embraced. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, does hereby proclaim the month of September 2025 as National Service Dog Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, and encourages all citizens to celebrate service dogs and be respectful of the rights to safe access in our community afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. Passed and duly adopted the 16th day of September 2025.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 25166.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This morning we have with us Deb Durham and service dog Neely. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I want to start by saying that. Oh, come here. Can you sit for me, buddy? Sit. Yes. Knee down. Down. You can rest. My name is Deb Durham, and I'm here with my service dog, Neely. I want to thank the commissioners for recognizing September as National Service Dog Month. This proclamation really matters. It says that disabled citizens belong here with dignity and with access. I live with a rare progressive disease. There is no cure. I waited 3 years to be matched with Neely. More than 500 people are still on the list to be matched with dogs from Canine Companions. And with more than 70 million disabled Americans and only 16,000 accredited service dogs, that actually makes Neely rarer than my disease. It's a funny kind of math. But scarcity isn't the only challenge. Recognition like this matters because for too many of us, access isn't just about getting through a door. It's about whether accommodations are honored or ignored, and sometimes when we speak up, we meet resistance. Neely opens doors for me, literally and figuratively. He safeguards my health and has given me back my independence. He helps to restore my dignity. Access isn't a charity, it's a right, and one worth celebrating. And service dogs make that right real in daily life. We can all play a part in making access real. Canine Companions relies on volunteers to raise puppies and on sponsors to support their training, whether it's giving time, resources, or simply spreading awareness. Every contribution makes an impact. So today, I want to thank the county for placing this recognition in the public record. I want to thank Canine Companions for the extraordinary work they have been doing for 50 years. And most of all, I want to thank Neely, who is my partner, my freedom, and occasionally my comic relief. This proclamation isn't just words, it's a reminder that true access requires recognition and follow-through. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, our next proclamation is proclaiming the month of September Alzheimer's Awareness Month.
Resolution number 25-174, resolution proclaiming the month of September 2025 as Alzheimer's Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Alzheimer's disease, a progressive neurodegenerative brain disorder, tragically robs individuals of their memories and leads to progressive mental and physical impairments. 7.2 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, including an estimated 500,000 under the age 65 living with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. Including in this number are an estimated 580 individuals in the state of Florida, of which an estimated 10,500 reside in St. Lucie County. Alzheimer's is the 7th leading cause of death in America. Alzheimer's disease is the only cause of death among the top 10 causes of death in America that cannot be prevented, cured, or even slowed. In 2025, in the U.S., nearly 12 million caregivers provided an estimated 18 billion hours of unpaid care, valued at more than $413 billion. In Florida, over 870,000 caregivers provided over 1.4 billion hours of unpaid care, valued at an estimated $29 billion. Alzheimer's disease is one of the most expensive diseases in the United States, and in 2025, the direct cost to American society of caring for those Alzheimer's disease will total an estimated $413 billion. The human cost of Alzheimer's disease is immeasurable, and in recognition of the individuals, families, friends, and caregivers dealing with Alzheimer's disease, the researchers who are seeking a cause or cure. Alzheimer's Association strives to raise funds and promote awareness to fight Alzheimer's disease and related disorders, thereby improving the quality of human life for those living with Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers. World Alzheimer's Day is on September 21st. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, does thereby proclaim the month of September 2025 as Alzheimer's Awareness Month in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted this 16th day of September 2025.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have Nina Sharp, but it looks like we have a whole slew of ladies, so if you guys want to come up and whoever's going to speak, and afterwards we'd love to get a photo with you.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Nina Sharp. I'm the manager for the Walk to Alzheimer's for Palm Beach and Treasure Coast. We are thrilled to be here today. Thank you so much for your support and for your proclamation to help so many. The county is amazing. We're so excited. The walk is coming up on Saturday, November 1st. It's at Indian River State College, Pruitt campus, 8 a.m. Your proclamation helps so many because it brings awareness. And awareness is one of those things that helps people. I just want to briefly talk about the association, and thank you so much, Recording Secretary. I didn't catch your name, but thank you for reading that. But with treatments emerging to fight against Alzheimer's and all other dementias, now is the time for hope. Your proclamation gives that hope. The other part of the hope is our walk. That is so significant. Today I have our amazing volunteers up here. My walk chair, Nicole Vaughn, can't do without. It takes a village, right? It takes all of us to end these diseases, especially because there is no cure for Alzheimer's at this time, but there is hope. So part of that hope is a ceremony that we have at our walks. It's called the Promise Garden Ceremony. And these 4 flowers represent our participants' stage or what they are going through in the walk and how it pertains to them. So I'm just going to have each one of them just tell you real briefly what their color represents, and then I'll just wrap it up. So Nicole, if you want to talk about your blue. Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Blue represents someone who has the disease, Alzheimer's disease. I do not have the disease. However, my mother does have the disease. And so this is what brings me to be the chair of this event, and this means so much to me. Thank you.
I want to say thank you first for this proclamation. I am the Community Engagement Manager for the Alzheimer's Association, but I also lost my mom to Alzheimer's. So this is why I do my job every day with so much passion, because I don't want no one going through this journey pass for that alone. And the Alzheimer's Association has the resources and the support for everybody that needs, especially our 24/7 helpline, which is a way where when you get to this point, you don't know where to go, what to say, what to do. We are here for support. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie Vestridge. My color is yellow as a caregiver. So I was a caregiver for my mom for over 10 years, and now I'm a caregiver for my husband. My husband's father died of this disease. My mother died of this disease. My grandfather died of this disease, and the hope is one day that we will have a white flower with a cure.
Good morning. My name is Lydia Zaccaro. I'm a registered nurse, and I carrying the color of orange, which is for volunteers. Thank you for your acknowledgement of this rare disease, and also thank you for acknowledging all of us here today. And we do need volunteers. We need people to be aware about this disease. It does impact a lot of families, and my family also. And again, just thank you for your time.
Great job, ladies. The white flower that Leslie mentioned does represent the hope and the symbol of that hope that's our first survivor. So how to get involved is come walk with us on Saturday, November 1st at Windy River State College, Pruitt campus. If you want to register to volunteer or to donate, it's alz.org/Treasure Coast Walk. Very simple. Again, that's alz.org/Treasure Coast Walk. So don't help us just, don't just like hope for a cure, help us find one. So thank you so much. We're grateful for you, and thank you for making this month, Alzheimer's awareness. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. What time was the walk again?
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
8 a.m. Yep.
No, thank you for being here. Ladies, thank you for sharing your stories. It was very touching, and we appreciate all that you do. So come on up here for a photo, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good Have a good day.
All right, moving right along, we have 4 sets of minutes that we need approval of. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the August 5th, August 12th, August 14th, and August 19th minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. I do want to point out we have 2 additional proclamations under 10E1 and 2. Resolution number 25-175, proclaiming the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. And then also resolution number 25-182, proclaiming September 2025 as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month in St. Lucie County. Last thing also is item 10M1, which is the final acceptance for the C-23 Range Line Road Bridge Canal repair, which was funded by the infrastructure surtax. With that, is there anyone else that wants to pull anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to go right into our public hearings. We have Ms. Barb Gettler. Good morning again.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Barbara Gettler, MSBU Coordinator. Today we have 7 notice of intent public hearings. One of the funding methods available for capital improvements and essential services is to levy non-ad valorem special assessments on the properties which derive a direct benefit from the improvements. This type of assessment is based on benefit and collected along with property taxes, using the uniform method pursuant to Section 197.3632 of the Florida statutes. In order to preserve this funding option, it is necessary for the board to adopt resolutions expressing its intent to use the uniform method of collecting commencing in November 2026. The resolutions must be considered at duly advertised public hearings held prior to January 1st, 2026. The aforementioned resolutions do not in any way obligate the county to to levy the special assessments. Rather, they simply satisfy the legal requirement preserving the county's option to use the uniform method of collection if a special assessment is levied. Because these are public hearings, it is necessary to open each item separately. Staff recommends board adoption of the notice of intent resolutions and authorization for the chair to sign documents as approved by the county attorney.
All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement and close public comment, come back to the board. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And that was the Culvert
Culvert
MSBU.
MSBU, yes.
So the next one is the Lakewood Park Water MSBU notice of intent.
All right, and with that, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Seeing no movement, come back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Our next one is Lakewood Park Drainage MSBU.
All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, come back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the fourth is the Property Cleanup Special Assessment District.
This is public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, come back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The fifth is St. Lucie Village MSBU.
Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, I'll close the public comment, come back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So the sixth item is Taylor Creek MSBU.
Okay, again, this is still a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Still seeing no movement, come back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And our last one is Towns, Villages, and Countryside MSBU.
All right, again, still public hearing. Anyone wishing to address us on this item? Seeing none, I'll come back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you, Ms. Gettler. All right, with that, we're going to move into planning and development services. We are going to switch number 1 and 2 around, so we are actually going to do the milestone inspection quickly. Or not quickly, but first.
Quicker than impacted.
There you go. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning, MJ.
And good morning, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director. For the record, I'm here with Michael Jerahan. He is our building official. Agenda item 11B2 is the second reading to adopt the draft ordinance for establishing milestone inspection guidelines. The item was properly noticed in the St. Lucie News Tribune on Friday, September 5th, and MJ is going to go over just a brief synopsis of the first reading and where we're at right now.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Michael Jerahan, St. Lucie County Building Official for the record. House Bill 913 was signed into effect this last legislative session, which required local enforcement agencies to adopt a specified time frame for repairs and to commence or be scheduled within a specified time frame of the Phase 2 milestone inspection that's required for substantial structural deterioration. The county has proposed that we put that specified time frame at 180 days. It was not to exceed 365 days. And again, we did reach out to the TCBA and the President's Council of Hutchinson Island. We didn't receive any negative feedback, just a couple questions. And so with that, we're looking for approval of the ordinance and available to answer any questions.
All right, got it. Any questions or comments from the board before I open it to public comment?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. All right, with that, this is also a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address us on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, come back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
you. All right, so now we're going to go into the first reading for our multimodal impact fee ordinance. Team, we're going to actually make sure you get through the presentation this time, okay?
All right, good morning again, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director. I'm here with Corey Benton. He is our Planning and Zoning Manager. Joe Sabater, Senior Management Analyst, and Negan Camp, the county's impact fee consultant with Banesh. This morning, we're here to continue the conversation on the county's updated multimodal road impact fee study. Negan will be presenting the methodology for the study, which uses the current TPO's Treasure Coast Regional Planning Model that every jurisdiction in the county has adopted. This is the same methodology that the county used during its 2022 road impact fee update. That methodology was peer-reviewed by a third-party transportation consultant who found the methodology to be common professional practice, and the results could be duplicated. Just as a reminder, this board continued this agenda item at your August 19th BOCC meeting in order to allow staff to conduct additional public outreach. Since the August 19th meeting, staff has participated in multiple presentations and presented the information to interested stakeholders. Also, the projected rates were updated using the Institute of Transportation Engineers 12th edition, which became available in mid-August. As we go through the recommended rates, you'll notice that many categories have seen the amount to be reduced based on this new updated data. We're happy to get the opportunity to go over the results of the study with you all this morning, the recommended rates, and we hope to get the board's direction on the next steps and how you wish to proceed with any changes in the proposed rates. And with that, I'll turn it over to Negan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Negan Camp with Banish.
Good morning.
Presentation starts with a brief background review, gets into the technical study findings, then extraordinary circumstances, and then the engagement process, public engagement process, and next steps. In terms of the background, the county, St. Lucie County, is continuing to experience significant growth. It's ranked 7th out of 67 Florida counties in projected population growth rate. It was 13 in residential permitting and 24. So all that places pressure on the infrastructure and the services. Transportation impact fees were last updated in 2022. At the time, they were capped at a 50% increase required by the state, and then that amount was discounted to 75%. The transportation impact fees that are being charged address only county and state roadways, and fees proportionally adjusted in each municipality to account for that. So it ends up providing a 60% discount in Port St. Lucie and about 3% in Fort Pierce based on the vehicle miles that are handled by each jurisdiction's roadways. Again, the purpose of the study is to calculate and reflect most current and localized data, which is also one of the legal requirements. Another part of it is converting the roadway impact fee to a multimodal transportation impact fee to provide more flexibility in terms of types of projects that can be funded. So doing that, in addition to roadway projects, allows the county to address standalone bicycle lanes, pedestrian sidewalks, transit amenities. Impact fees by definition are a one-time capital charge to new development. They cover the cost of new additional capital facilities. They cannot be used for maintenance or operations or resurfacing, but they do free up general tax dollars, so they indirectly help those programs. They also help implement capital improvement plans. Their main purpose is to maintain the level of service. They calculate the cost of growth, and when they are most needed when there are high growth levels and limited alternative funding. In Florida, impact fees were governed by case law since 80s. Some of its key requirements are that they need to comply with dual rational nexus, meaning they need to be supported by a study demonstrating that the fees are proportional to the need created by new development, and fee payers receive the benefit, which is achieved through establishing benefit districts where fees collected are spent in those sub-areas, as well as a list of capacity-adding projects that are incorporated into CIP or CIE or a master plan. St. Lucie County has 5 benefit zones. Again, impact fees collected in each zone need to be spent in that specific zone. In 2006, we had the Impact Fee Act passed, and it had several changes since then. Some of its key requirements are that the studies be based on most recent and localized data, and then a more recent legislation defined that as data available within the past 4 years. There's a minimum of 90-day notice for any fee increases after adoption. If there's any challenge to the fee, the government has the burden of proof, and there are several other requirements. One of the recent changes to the legislation was that if there's an increase, the outstanding developer credits are indexed by the same percentage. So basically, they receive the full benefit of the intensity and density that they paid at the time that they established the credit. So basically, they are locked into that fee schedule. They are not experiencing the increase in terms of using their credits. In addition, impact fees became transferable from one development to another within the same benefit zone or to the adjacent zone if the improvement benefits the adjacent zone as well. And then in 2021, House Bill 337 placed limits on fee increases as well as included some phasing requirements. So if the increase is up to 25%, it needs to be phased over 2 years. If it's 25 to 50%, it needs to be raised over 4 equal installments in 4 years. It cannot be increased more than 50%, cannot be increased more than once every 4 years. There's an exception clause that says that if the jurisdiction demonstrates extraordinary circumstances, holds 2 public workshops to discuss these circumstances, and the increase is approved by 2/3 of the governing body, it can be more than 50%, or the phasing could be different. And then this year, Senate Bill 1080 passed, and it basically says effective January 1st, it disallows use of extraordinary circumstances unless the jurisdiction increased its fees within the past 5 years. And then the vote of approval needs to be unanimous instead of 2/3. Also in 2024, we had a House Bill 479 passed, and it required interlocal agreements between cities and counties if they are both collecting for transportation impacts in the city. The main purpose of it is to ensure that new development is not charged twice for the same impacts, and it provides a method of distribution or assigning responsibility when this is the case. In addition, it required that the impact fee studies need to be completed and adopted within 12 months if they are going to increase the rates, and also they need to use the data available within the past 4 years. Impact fees deal with the new development's impact in a general countywide basis, sort of averages. Concurrency addresses locational issues, and it's one of the tools for local governments to ensure that there are adequate public facilities are available to meet the transportation demand. The comprehensive plan includes adopted level of service standards that the community established, and then using certain studies, local governments evaluate the impact of the development on the level of service. And really, originally, the premise of it was that local governments would be able to deny development that's out of sequence. If it's something happening far out where there are no facilities, they could be denied. However, recent legislation changes require that if the development addresses its proportionate share, local governments have to approve that development. They cannot deny it anymore. And again, it's calculated based on a formula established in the statutes, and it really makes proportionate share cannot include any existing deficiencies or cannot charge new development for any existing deficiencies, only for their impact. So the technical study is using a consumption-based methodology, which is very common in Florida. It charges new growth based on the value of the infrastructure that is consuming. And fees are corrected in a way that they do not, calculated in a way that they do not charge for existing deficiencies, which is one of the legal requirements for impact fees as well. And the study establishes the cost of growth and the maximum level of impact fee, and then board has the policy option to adopt that at a reduced percentage. Basic impact fee formula looks at cost to add capacity, that's again the value of the infrastructure, and from that, any non-impact fee revenue that is contributed toward the same type of projects from future development is subtracted. That net cost is multiplied by travel to calculate the final fee. So again, the basic formula starts with estimating the cost of a lane mile, that's 7.7 million. That carries a capacity of 12,700. So the cost per capacity is about $600. So every time we add a person to the transportation system, it costs $600 for them to travel a mile. Basically, that's sort of a unit cost. An average home generates 23 person miles of daily travel. Those two multiply gives us the total cost of almost 14,000. New development's contribution generates a credit of 1,600, and then the net fee ends up being the difference is about 12,000. The demand side of the equation has three components. So how many trips on a daily basis are generated by each land use, the length of those trips, how long they are, and how many of them are new and because of that development as opposed to passerby or captured trips. So again, if somebody is traveling from home to work and they stop at a gas station that's right on the way, we do not charge that gas station because that trip was already going. The data sources are the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Handbook. And again, as mentioned, 12th edition was published on August 18, so that's now incorporated into the calculations. There's a Florida Studies database that includes studies that are conducted in Florida jurisdictions and at sites, and that measures all three variables. And then the Treasure Coast Regional Travel Demand Model is also used to validate the demand calculations. On the cost side, we review any local projects, either historical or upcoming estimates, and then also supplement that with projects from other jurisdictions. So through that process, the total cost is construction cost is estimated about $4 million per lane mile for county roads. And this chart kind of shows the trends in the construction costs, and you can kind of see, you know, we had the 05, 06, 07 boom, then we had the Great Recession when the costs decreased, and then after 2012, 2013, they were starting to increase again, and that level of increase became much more significant after the pandemic. And you had your 2017 update was done when we were just coming out of recession, and then the 22 update was limited by 2017 update numbers because of that 50% cap. Again, we see the same type of trend in various indices. You see a sort of a, stable increase, 2017, 2020, so on, and then after the pandemic, the level of increase again became much more significant. So with design right-of-way CEI, the total cost ends up being about $6.2 million for county roads on a per lane mile basis. We go through the same type of process for state roads. Estimated construction cost is about $6.5 million per lane mile. Total cost is $10.2 million per lane mile. And those two elements, county and state costs, are combined based on the lane mile distribution in the long-range transportation plans, cost feasible plan. So 63% will be county lane miles and 37 state. So that gives us a blended cost of $7.7 million per lane mile. Then those roads carry capacity of on average 12,700, so that cost divided by that capacity gives us about $605 per person miles of capacity. On the credit side, any other revenue sources that are being contributed to the systems are reviewed. And again, the county revenues, so there's about $38 million on an annual basis that are being contributed from non-impact fee sources, and really most of it comes from the state. County relies primarily on impact fees for any expansion projects. And so there's a little bit of sales tax and then the fuel tax on debt service, but it's less than 10% of what's being contributed. But again, that all generates a credit. Here, one of the challenges in transportation that even though transportation has a dedicated revenue source, fuel taxes are on a per gallon basis. Even though state pennies are allowed to be indexed, local pennies are not. So between the inability to index and the fuel efficiency, a local penny in mid-90s is maybe less than half its value today. So you have an inefficient revenue source that's declining in its value while costs are increasing. So that's creating, again, this challenge in how to fund transportation. And that's why most communities are using fuel taxes only for resurfacing, and so far it barely covers that amount. I think it was in June, the board requested a two-tier impact fee. So that was calculated using the urban service boundary as the dividing boundary. And fee differential was based on the travel conditions and level of service. So I just want to take a minute to explain this. Transportation level of service standard is an exception standard. It says no road will be worse than D. For impact fee purposes, we use it as an average, which means even if you collect impact fees at 100%, if you only have impact fees as the revenue source, half the roads will be worse, half the roads will be better. Just because when we do actually calculate for the achieved level of service, the fees end up being very, very high, and nobody even considers adopting them. So it's been always the practice to use that as an average. So there's that to keep in mind. And then when we look at, and then the measure of the level of service is really speed of travel or congestion. So when we look at volume to capacity ratios, adopted standards is about 1, which means about 13 miles, 15 miles of average speed. But when we look at what you are really achieving, and this is the boundary again, urban service boundary, within the urban service boundary, the achieved level of service is 0.6, meaning your volumes are less than what would be on an average if compared to your adopted standards, and they are better. Again, on countywide basis, on average. Outside the urban service boundary, it's better, 0.3, again, meaning there's less congestion, they are able to experience higher speed, they don't have to stop as much, and so forth. So the county could use that differential or a portion of that differential to vary the fees. Basically, you are providing higher level of service than what your adopted level of service standard calls on a countywide basis. So using that, outside the urban service area, the capacities are adjusted to 0.8 instead of 1, and that increases the cost per capacity from $600 to about $760. So that created the differential outside of urban service area. The resulting fees, these are again some example land uses. For single family home, 2,000 square foot or so, current fee is about $5,600. The calculated fee within the urban service boundary is about $12,300. And in the outside the urban service boundary is about $15,800. And then the fees are adjusted within the cities, again, by reviewing the vehicle miles of travel of any trips that start and end in each city, and how much of it is handled by city roads. So in Port St. Lucie, 55% of trips that start and end in Port St. Lucie are handled by the city roads, and the remaining are county and state roads. And in Fort Pierce, that's 3%. And again, this takes all trips, not just the trips in the city boundary. It's so anybody going from county to city, city to county, and so on. So all trips that either start or end in Port St. Lucie, excluding trips that just pass by. Like external to external trips are excluded, which they don't stop in the city. So then, the calculated fees for a single family within the urban service boundary is about $12,000. Within outside of it is about $16,000. Within Port St. Lucie is about $4,600, and within Fort Pierce is about $11,900. This chart and next one shows some comparisons to other jurisdictions, and in these, again, we wanted to show you the study date so you can see some of how old the data is, as well as the adoption percentages, which is either policy decision or because of that 50% cap, they had to keep it low. So this group for a single family 2,000 square foot home ranges anywhere from about $5,800 to $21,000, $22,000. And this group ranges from about $3,000 to $13,000. In terms of revenues, current collections generate about $10 million per year. And we estimated based on a range of permitting, so depending on permitting levels, that could go up to 19 to 28 million per year. So over the 5 years, that can generate 93 to 140 million almost, if adopted at full rates. Again, benefit zones were reviewed, and they seem to function well and fulfill all the requirements, so there was no recommendation to change them. In terms of the extraordinary circumstances, again, when we look at St. Lucie County, you are 20th in population, 7th in projected growth rate, 14th in projected absolute growth, and 13th in residential permitting. This is all to say you are a larger county growing very rapidly. Again, that puts pressure on the infrastructure. As we reviewed in the charts, the costs have been increasing. They've been increasing already after the Great Recession, but then that level of increase became so much more significant after the pandemic. And the county has a list of projects that are unfunded or partially funded, amounting to $285 million. This is not necessarily a comprehensive list, but sort of a more priority projects. And again, this is is this where you're taking over? Okay.
Thank you, Negan, and good morning. Madam Chair, members of the board, Corey Benton, Planning Manager for the record. And, I want to thank the board for the additional time and the opportunity and direction to staff to engage stakeholders, to collaborate, ensure that there's symmetric information, that we have good question, answer, and dialogue regarding this proposal and this study, which affects our community on a daily basis. I appreciate the stakeholders that are here in person this morning that might speak, and those that have provided feedback, even some of the input from the City of Port St. Lucie and other jurisdictions. I've had the opportunity to be with St. Lucie County as a staff member for almost 8 years now, and I try to be as objective as possible in my daily duties. But in the core of it too, I've been a resident of St. Lucie County my entire life, and so there's there's pride in observing and participating in these types of discussions, and knowing that your duties and your responsibilities are to balance current actions and future policy for generations to come. And this is a very important discussion, particularly during budget cycle, when you're making challenging decisions on demands and asks from our community, and the expectations of the quality of life for folks who have been here longer than I have, and folks who have been here for 30 days. And so, what we've had over time is, again, a focus on diversifying our economy and making St. Lucie County the best place to live, work, and play, and the balance of public resources, particularly roads, but also, as we've talked about today, with schools, jobs, libraries, parks, beaches, you name it. We have an intricate balance of our budget, and some folks take the approach of pay-as-you-go, and impact fees kind of embrace that theory of pay-as-you-grow. And in this particular slide, it highlights some of the residential development activities over the past several decades, seeing some of the spikes and peaks just before the Great Recession, and seeing that elevation and that trend where approximately 4,000 to 6,000 units per year are being developed in St. Lucie County. New residents, new families are coming here. They're enjoying and embracing that quality of life. The job opportunities that this body and boards over time have helped to spearhead in our community, and those folks in our audience who have taken the risk and provided investment in our community to see our future continue to be brighter. But the growth itself and the associated costs to support that growth. We know the costs of roads have increased, materials, groceries, you name it. And so that's part of the core discussion today of this study is considering market changes, market rates, and those effects on our community and how we plan and budget for our future. This slide highlights just last year the concentration of new residential certificates of occupancy, where folks are landing and coming to our community. And of course, we know that the significant portion of that is in the city of Port St. Lucie to the south, where there's been new roadways, new interchanges with I-95, commercial and employment that St. Lucie County has supported through economic development incentives. Yes, a more modest development occurrence in the city of Fort Pierce, but in the unincorporated area, over 749 homes coming north of Midway Road. And we're seeing that trend continue. This body has considered plan development applications and new opportunities for development to piggyback off of some of the successes as a community with new jobs, new desire to be here, new entertainment, and again, quality education, being an A-rated school district. This snapshot, not to go too deep into the development activities, but with some of the activity in the city of Port St. Lucie, Verano, Tradition, Western Grove, Southern Grove, we're seeing new frontiers and add-on proposals throughout St. Lucie County in the city of Fort Pierce. And some of the heart of that around our interchanges, we see Kings Highway expansion with state public investment in facilitating that. So folks are finding our community because of the quality of life, affordability, the jobs, and land costs and land availability. And so it's created a market that's been beneficial for all sides. And the study is a culmination of acknowledging those changes in infrastructure costs, the needs of our community today and in the future, and what the market balance is, and trying to right-size those fees. So as Negan provided some of the highlights of the rates that are the output of this study, we have for an average single-family home a proposal of $12,273 per residential unit, which is essentially doubling the fee over today. But for context, when staff was back before the Board of County Commissioners in 2022, we were presenting a study acknowledging the growth, acknowledging some of the costs of infrastructure that have transitioned over time. And it's not simply those hard costs too of the asphalt, the design, it's the acquisition of right-of-way. When land costs more, expanding roadways, acquiring right-of-way to achieve that cost more, even the design fees to account for environmental impacts and how we navigate and adapt infrastructure to our community in a manner that continues to provide sustainable growth. And so in 2022, the market rate highlighted at that time for the roadway needs would have been $8,700 per single-family unit. And we know for a variety of reasons the board selected to adopt a lower rate, but they were considering, that we were coming out of a recession. We were still, considering how COVID would impact Florida, our community, the environment, and so they made that policy decision. And staff has acknowledged through this effort some of the changes and the importance to revisit this figure and make sure it's right-sized for our community in advance. as Negan indicated, this body has the ability to consider the report, the study, consider the rates recommended, adopt somewhere in between, and again, this is the first reading of two, to provide questions, feedback to staff, allow us the opportunity to research, and provide a very transparent approach to right-sizing these fees for our community. Industrial, the next category, which has garnered a lot of time and input. Prior correspondence had acknowledged that at one point the recommended rate for light industrial was almost 5 to 6 times the current rate. The rates before you this morning, it's a more modest increase, and that is directly corresponding to an update to the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual for trip generation from the 11th edition to the 12th edition that captures market data and trends and changes. And so these impact fees, as we're talking about, the increase that's presented is adapting to changes in the marketplace. This body has the ability to, in the future, respond and make appropriate changes based upon what we see here locally and abroad in costs, but also demand for development in our community. And then again, the office and retail, which those figures were, at least for office, was a lot closer to the presented rates in 2022. We're seeing very similar demand and impacts. And then retail, that figure has grown from what was recommended in 2022. For the residential fee, and putting that number in context, when staff shows up asking or presenting a figure to take it from roughly $6,000 per single family home to $12,000 per single family home, and we're talking about the cost of supplying that infrastructure and maintaining that quality of life and efficiency and safety of the roads, we wanted to look at the market considerations. Where were we? Where have we been, and where are we at now? The impact fee for a single family home back in 2010 was approximately $4,500. The average or mean home price or sale value at that time was about $115,000. Today it's elevated just shy of $400,000. And so looking at that as a ratio or a component of the overall cost to deliver that home, in 2010 that was just shy of 4% of that average mean value. And then last year our rate as adopted was only a mere 1.62% of that home sale price. The proposal, even though the fee is proposed at double, that would equate to just around 3% of that mean house price today. And so when we talk about the increases in land value, the increases in cost to deliver on the homes, staff thinks it's important to look at that corresponding ratio and the piece to the pie, as this body does on a daily and annual basis relating to our budget, our millage rate, and right sizing our expenditures to serve the public. Again, we've talked about an overall snapshot, but this slide highlights the proposed rates for a subset of uses in St. Lucie County for our urban service area, but it's important to highlight those rates that would be assessed within the city of Port St. Lucie limits, as well as the city of Fort Pierce, with interlocals currently established with both jurisdictions, whereas the Port St. Lucie rates that they assess, we work to eliminate or reduce our fee in alignment with their assessed fee. And then in Fort Pierce, who adopted their rates around 2008 at a 60% amount of that recommendation, there's a corresponding program where they collect our fee and then we share in that revenue to ensure that we're balancing impact fee related projects across St. Lucie County and directly serving that new development. And in the industrial categories, again, with the proposed increases, it's important to note that we have various categories, that not all industrial users are the same, whereas the intermodal distribution warehouse facility, the proposal is an increase of approximately $1,000 per 1,000 square feet, but that would apply to the large-scale distribution facilities that we're seeing, the 4, 5, 6, 800,000 square foot facilities with quite a bit of employees, quite a bit of trucks coming in and out. The general industrial, which usually applies to smaller facilities in that 35 to 55, 60,000 square foot range that might be employee intensive, some small scale manufacturing, other related support facilities, and then warehouse kind of being that mid-tier, more passive, less traffic generation use, being about approximately $1,000 per 1,000 square foot higher. And then where there are proposed developments that there's not a direct category that we can fit them under, our Code of Ordinances provides an opportunity for folks to present their market, their industry data for traffic generation to right-size that fee to correspond with the applicable or adopted rates. It's been noted that the board in recent years has adopted the non-residential rates, particularly the light industrial and similar rates below the recommended study rates. And that, in my mind, aligns with some of the core principles in our comprehensive plan that are looking to support targeted industry, small business growth, support manufacturing, and those support industries. But that's, of course, an option afforded to the board in considering the right size of fees moving forward. And then after we talk about the rates and talk about the revenue, it's then incumbent upon our community to prioritize those impact fee related capital improvements to ensure that those revenues and those dollars paid by new development are going to improve infrastructure, expand capacity in our roadways. And we've experienced that with investments in Midway Road. We've experienced that in our partnership in brand new roads where the development centers have been in Port St. Lucie with our assignment of credits to developers, where when the local government is not then tasked with deploying these impact fee funds to build new roads, developers have the option under our under our Code of Ordinances and statute of proposing those infrastructure improvements and garnering credits against future fees to ensure that there's a balance of both private and public sector deployment of infrastructure to support new growth. Again, planning future alongside the Transportation Planning Organization. This is an additional infrastructure highlight anticipated in the future where we would tie our roadway corridors such as Midway Road with Glades, with Edwards, with Jenkins Road up to the state roads 70 and 68 by connecting and linking this gap, providing industry and vehicles alternative routes, additional capacity, so we can ensure efficient business activities. This being another endeavor for improvements around Selvets and Glades. And the overall study itself provides a series of targeted improvements where those capital investments could be made. And the impact fee revenues, our staff does a great job of deploying those, but also leveraging those when there's opportunities to partner with the state, even the federal government, the TPO, to maximize, multiply those dollars. We certainly explore those opportunities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ben to highlight some of the successes of stakeholder engagement today.
All right. Thank you, Corey. And now we'll shift to the public engagement process that we've taken throughout this impact fee process. We started with 2 public workshops. They focused on the extraordinary circumstances. The first public workshop was held on July 17th, 2025. Followed by a second public workshop on August 19th, 2025. These sessions gave the public the chance to learn about our updated study and also permitting trends, rising costs, and provide feedback as we move forward. On July 17th, 2025, this ordinance was heard by our Planning and Zoning Commission. At that time, they recommended approval of the full adopted rate by a vote of 4-1. We also met with the Treasure Coast Builders Association on August 14th, 2025, We were able to share the study and get some feedback from those folks that are directly involved with the building community and hear about their perspectives. And then on August 15th, 2025, Joseph and myself, we presented to the Citizens Budget Committee. They recommend unanimous approval of the recommended rates, and they formalized that through the adoption of a resolution 2025-02. Following this board's continuance of this item, we had the ability to present the recommended rates and the updated study to the Real Estate Association. That occurred on September 2nd, 2025, and just last Friday, Corey and Joe made a presentation to the Kings Highway Corridor Association, really focusing on the growth that we're seeing in the Kings Highway area and focusing on that industrial recommended rates. For those folks that weren't able to participate in any of our in-person sessions, we did hold a virtual public workshop that was on September 10th. The public had the ability to ask questions. We also had a designated county email address where folks could provide comments, and we would respond accordingly if they had any. The next steps here, we're really at this stage looking for board direction on 3 key items. The first, the fee rates and whether any discounts should be applied to any of the categories. As Corey mentioned, previous boards have adopted reduced rates for our economic drivers, those industrial rates. Second, we're looking at land use categories and making sure that they're appropriately defined and aligned with our current growth patterns. The board does have the ability to add specific land uses if they are not included in our recommended rate structure. And third, we're looking to see if you all would consider the phasing of fees. You have the ability to phase those in over the 4-year lifespan of these impact fees, and you have the ability also to implement those at the full rate all at one time if you so choose. Once we have that direction, the next step is bringing the ordinance forward for adoption. That would be at a second reading, where your recommendation today will help us set the future adoption date. We don't have a recommended date. We're looking forward to hearing from this board on any recommended changes before we move forward to an adoption hearing, and any suggestions on a recommended adoption date.
Got it.
And with that, we'll be open to any questions.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Would we like to open it up to public comment first before we?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby.
Prior to going to public comment, I was wondering if we could get our county attorney to address the letter that we all received from the Treasure Coast Builders Association through Gunster Law Firm. They're arguing that we cannot raise impact fees due to Senate Bill 180, as it's just, could you comment on that?
Interim County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. Yes, we received the letter. We have reviewed it. We are aware that there are entities around the state that are making that argument, but that Senate bill is for land development code regulations. Our impact fees are not a land development code regulation, and though there has been no court decision on it yet, there are court cases on this specific item going on throughout the state. We feel that we can proceed.
Okay. Commissioner Lee, did you?
Yeah. Generally speaking, I am for increasing the impact fees. I have heard from residents that the new developers need to pay for their impact that they're putting on the county, which is obviously what this is. I am hearing also that on the commercial side that it could cripple the development, and from the fees that you have here, it looks a little bit different from the ones I have seen. So I guess the first question is, have these been adjusted to help offset that? Regarding the commercial, my main concern is obviously not wanting to stunt the employment growth or employment opportunities.
Chair Fowler, Commissioner Leet, the only changes that you'll see in the recommended rates occurred due to the changes in the 11th edition of the ITE trip generation rates versus the 12 that were published in mid-August. So our study has been updated accordingly to have the most recent data. We can go forward and show a spreadsheet with those specific commercial rates if that's what you want to hone in on. But the only changes so far in those recommended rates have been just due to the ITE changes.
It was also brought to my attention there's a category 130. Are we addressing that at all or looking at that?
So that would be at the board's direction if it's something that you wanted to see. If there are certain land use codes, 130 is a industrial park. It hasn't historically been included in our rate schedule, but if it's something that the board wants to see, and we can add multiple land use codes at the direction of the board, but we were hoping to receive that guidance from you at this meeting.
As far as your original question, I would like to hear from the public.
All right, sounds good. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address us on this item, please do so. Good morning, Mayor Hudson.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Linda Hudson, Mayor of Fort Pierce, for the record. Last night at our commission meeting, we discussed this proposal for the first time, and our commissioners and I are very concerned about the impact that it's going to have on what's happening in Fort Pierce. We understand road costs, believe me, we're dealing with it too, and so I understand where this is coming from, but we're very concerned about the Kings Highway Industrial Corridor, because we've embarked on that. You know, the city of Port St. Lucie has had a lot of growth, and the EDC has helped them, and we're all very, very happy for that. And it's kind of now Fort Pierce's turn. And this comes at a very, very bad time that impacts our plans for the Kings Highway Industrial Corridor. And honestly, it impacts the potential of Kings Landing in downtown Fort Pierce. Whether you support that development or not, it will bring a hotel to downtown Fort Pierce. But this certainly will give it pause. And we're just now, last night, we voted for the last approval for Kings Landing. And so it's going forward. But we also have infill lots in the city of Fort Pierce that have been hard to develop with the current impact fees. And so we know that this will make it almost impossible to develop some of the lots that are inside the city of Fort Pierce. So those are things that we're looking at, and although that we do understand the road costs, believe me, the Indian River Drive improvement costs that we're doing in Fort Pierce is $10 million plus for a very, very short space. And so I'm very, very aware of it. So of our commissioners. We have an impact fee moratorium in our FPRA area to attract development. And so, and I understand that there's a growth has happened so fast, especially in Port St. Lucie, that people are kind of wanting to make sure that growth pays for itself. And I believe in impact fees. I just believe that perhaps you need to look at something, the unintended consequences of what might happen to the city of Fort Pierce. And it's really our turn now. And so I would certainly like to work with you on this in terms of having some kind of accommodation for some of our growth that's happening to us now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning, Bridget Keene with the City of Port St. Lucie. I am here today to represent the city and request that the following letter be entered into the record. At the August 19th, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting, the city did provide both written and oral comment on the proposed road impact fee ordinance. The city raised a number of questions and concerns, and the city also raised a number of these questions at the meeting with the county staff and consultants on August 14th, 2025. The city's questions have not been answered, and the city would like to re-enter those comments into the record for the continuation of the public hearing, and we would also like to enter these comments into the record. That includes additional comments from our mobility fee consultant. And again, the city's very happy to work with the county and looks forward to continued collaboration. And I do want to acknowledge that we did receive an email this morning at 9:15 with some responses to comments, but obviously there isn't time to look at that right now. And thank you. And do I give the right to you?
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for having us today. My name is Amanda Geller, and I chair the Government Affairs Committee for the Treasure Coast for Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors. And I would like to thank staff for graciously meeting with our group as well. We've got some members of our committee here in the audience. This letter has been submitted for the record as well. We appreciate the work that goes into keeping St. Lucie County growing responsibly. With that in mind, we want to share some concerns about the proposed impact fee increases and how they could unintentionally hold our community back. Raising fees may sound like a straightforward way to fund infrastructure, but in practice, it creates some real challenges. Higher costs make it less attractive for builders and businesses to invest here. Instead of putting down roots in St. Lucie County, many will simply move north or west to surrounding counties, which is already happening, where it is more affordable to build. That shift could slow residential and commercial development here at home, reduce demand for land, and even drive down lot prices as property owners struggle to sell in a less competitive market. The county's own impact fee reports shows that 92% of fees collected last year came from residential projects. That means the financial burden is falling mostly on families who want to make St. Lucie their home. On top of that, the study notes that nearly 20% of earmarked road funding is directed towards corridors that did not show substantial demand for new or widened roadway corridors on page 18. That raises important questions about whether these funds are being targeted in the most effective way. Local businesses also feel the impact. Companies looking to build warehouses or large facilities can just as easily set up shop in nearby areas with lower costs. If they stay, they are likely to request tax abatements, which shifts more of the burden onto home buyers and takes up additional staff the commission time. Without abatements, we risk losing opportunities, tax revenue, and the long-term economic benefits these employers bring. The ripple effects are significant: slower population growth, fewer construction-related jobs, and ultimately less revenue for the county. That's the opposite of what we all want for St. Lucie. Instead, we encourage the Commission to consider pro-business and pro-resident strategies to keep growth steady while still funding infrastructure. St. Lucie County has worked hard to create an inviting environment for families and businesses alike. By keeping fees competitive and growth policies balanced, we can continue to attract new investment, create jobs, and strengthen our community together. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Deb Frazier with the Treasure Coast Builders Association. I do really want to thank the staff. They came and met with us. They came and spoke in front of our group, which I give you lots of points for because they knew it was not going to be a positive environment, although very professional, of course, and all the different meetings they've had, and I've attended, I believe, each and every one of them. I guess the frustrating part for the TCBA is the fact that we don't feel like anybody's listening. So I spoke in front of the Planning and Zoning. I've spoken to all of you. 64% of your population leaves the county to go to work. So where is that in the study? It's nowhere. And so many of your people aren't using the roads. I don't know where the studies are coming from. The housing, thank you so much, Amanda. 100% housing obviously affects our builders and developers as well as our industrial, all the warehousing, all of that as well are our members. And we're looking at permit fees. Look at your residential permit fees. You are above the national average in dropping permits. So the national average right now is an 8% decrease in residential housing permits. The county's at 10% and dropping fast. Unfortunately, the Fed has not been our friend in all of this. We're hoping that we'll see some movement later this month, but again, that affects the 10-year treasury. Sometimes mortgage rates are a little slow to follow, although I'm certainly hoping not. But we have a perfect storm right now, and the fact that it is everything, tariffs are affecting it. The supply chain is affecting everything that's happening in development, and we are seeing it move north, where already seeing a lot more development happen in Fellsmere, Palm Bay. They're saying Palm Bay is going to be the next St. Lucie. Well, I certainly hope not. I hope St. Lucie continues to be the St. Lucie that it is. It is a wonderful community. I do appreciate what you do. Obviously, our attorneys and several attorneys around the state disagree with your attorney, and so I certainly hope that we can have a conversation about that. I also hope that you will consider lowering them below the extraordinary circumstance level so that this conversation doesn't have to continue, because by right you're allowed to do that, 25% or below. I certainly would encourage you all to look at those numbers as well. But again, I do want to thank the staff for all their hard work, and they're agreeing to meet with us and talk. It's just frustrating on our end, and I know the realtor end, that we don't feel like we're being heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Bob Raines here on behalf of Oak Ridge Ranchers, LLC. And appreciate the opportunity to speak again this morning, and we appreciate the opportunity we've had to meet with you all individually and with your staff on this issue. Oak Ridge Ranchers understands that there may be a need for increase in impact fees. That's not the issue for us. The issue, as we've stated previously, and I submitted in a letter at the August 19th, has been the extraordinary circumstances clause that you're invoking in order to increase these impact fees above the 50%. So that's the issue that we have. The county says that the growth of the county is one of the issues, and that is not an extraordinary circumstance. St. Lucie County has been identified as a major growth area for many years, well beyond the last impact fee increase considered in 2022. And most importantly is the impact fees are connected to the residential growth, to the growth in the county. So each time there's a new impact fee charged to each new home. So that's been occurring over time. Similarly, an argument relative to an increase in construction costs is without merit also. While increased construction costs may justify some increase in impact fees, the notion that the county is experiencing extraordinary circumstances is neither supported by the facts nor the county's own conduct. From the second half of 2020 through 2022, inflation in the United States did increase. However, the county did not identify the increased construction costs at that time as an extraordinary circumstance. And as a matter of fact, you all capped it for the policy reasons that you did, and I completely understand and appreciate what you were doing at that time. But to now say, well, the construction costs and the increased costs have now doubled or tripled or whatever, and now we need to increase that, and that's an extraordinary circumstance. Your own consultant said, had you increased them at the maximum allowed at the time, we would not be needing extraordinary circumstances at this time. So to me, that's a bootstrap argument, right? You created your own issue, and now you're saying that's an extraordinary circumstance. Finally, I would submit, because you haven't done those increases over the time and used the phase-in, that we're now talking about not paying for future development, but for the past development that was in the past since that we haven't increased the cost. So they're actually paying for the past and not the future development. So we would respectfully request that you consider an increase in impact fees, but not through extraordinary circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning. I'm Lee Dobbins with the DME Law Firm here in Fort Pierce. I'm not here representing any particular client this morning, I'm just here as an interested party. I just want to provide a little perspective because I've been practicing real estate law here for 30 years in this community. And I remember for years, being on EDC and chamber boards and, everyone lamenting the fact that we didn't have any high-end development in St. Lucie County. It happened other places in our neighboring counties, but not here. And now we finally have, some of that high-end development that generates good taxable value for the community right here. I remember for years, everyone lamenting over the fact that we needed to attract more employment here. In industrial and commercial and manufacturing. And the EDC and the Chamber have done an amazing job with bringing those kinds of things to the community over the past couple of decades. And now we've got all kinds of manufacturers and distribution centers and great employment opportunities that we can be proud of. We've got an affordable housing need to feed those and continue to have that manufacturing and have the good employment here. And I just want to caution you guys that, we don't sit on our laurels and just think that these things just happen, and that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and stop that success that we've had. We can chase away that high-end residential development. We can discourage that additional commercial. And when you look at the commercial in particular, the manufacturing and warehouse distribution, those guys look at different communities on a very competitive basis, and they're looking at dollar per square foot. And these kinds of fees can really affect that calculus. So I think we really need to keep that big picture in perspective, and I don't envy you guys what you have to do. Obviously, you've got to be able to pay for the roads and have development pay for itself. But just be careful that you don't derail the success that we've had, and be thinking about the next step too, because the success that the EDC has had in attracting development to the manufacturing and the warehousing, the jobs, that can't continue if we don't have affordable housing, and it's hard to do affordable housing if you have the fees too high. So I would just ask you to please keep all of that in mind as you are making the decisions of what you have to do. And I apologize, I've got to run to another meeting, so I can't stick around. But thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Bo Barnavon. I'm a resident here of the county. I'm also Director of Land for K. Hovnanian. Just a few quick comments. I want to reiterate the concept of the extraordinary circumstances. If it's a rising tide throughout Florida and we're like all the other cities and municipalities, that's not extraordinary. If you were to say that the county is growing while everyone else is not, that would be extraordinary. I've heard a couple of people mention that development should pay for itself. Development is paying for itself. If you look at Oak Resi, or if you look at, if Minute Maid gets developed, or if the old Graves property out by the fairgrounds gets developed, the county's not building roads to service those developments. The developers are building the roads to service those developments. And in fact, the developers are not just building the roads within the community, they're building the roads or widening or expanding the roads to get to the community. The county doesn't say, oh, we love your project, we'll contribute $3 million for the roads. And in fact, so if a developer, let's say there's 100 acres out west, and you want to do 3 units of the acre, 300 homes, the developer extends the road to the site, builds the roads into the site, and then all 100 of those houses still pay the impact fee. So it's really, development is paying for itself. Those 100 homes, what are they paying their impact fee for? They already have all the services. They're paying impact fee for the next development. So in a way, development is really paying for itself. Okay, the projects that you're looking to do with this impact fee money is not to bring roads to new development. It's to widen roads. It's to make improvements to roads. It's to provide better utilization of the traffic system. It's not for new development, essentially. And then my final question or comment is, I noticed somewhere in the early presentation that interlocal agreements are supposed to be done by October 1st. I know City of Port St. Lucie is looking to increase their fee by 400% in some cases. Where does the county stand with this interlocal agreement with the city? It doesn't sound like there's any agreement in place at all. If somebody could, let us know what the status is of that, and is an agreement even feasible or possible by October 1st with the city? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we've already, Mr. Landry, you can feel free to speak in with any timelines or whatnot, but we've already renegotiated that interlocal for the collection. Is that correct?
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have a current interlocal in place with the City of Port St. Lucie that runs through 2027, and we've been in discussion for, future ones, but we do have a current one that's in place right now.
Okay,
that takes care of that. And keep in mind, as staff presented, today isn't about adopting anything. Today is about hearing the feedback, getting the information, and then maybe giving staff some direction on percentages or amounts, and then possibly looking at a future meeting date, which could be as far out as, November, December, timeframe, to give us enough time to revisit everybody and keep engaging the community partners and working on those kind of things. So this isn't something that we're asking you to rush to a decision or make a decision today. It's just more or less get this information, start processing it, give us some guidance. And if you don't have all the guidance today, if we set a date far enough out, we can still work with you, independently and formally to get all that information and come back with a proper final presentation at a way late date or a date later that everybody will be, I think, satisfied with where we end up at.
Got it. Ben, one of the items for us to give you further feedback on is the land use categories. Where would we find a list, or can we get a list of the land use categories so we can look at them to see if there are some that we would like to consider?
We have those in the presentation.
If we could make sure to get those, or any other commissioner that might want to look at that, I definitely do. Yeah.
Certainly, Chair, members of the board, I know there's been discussion about exploring single-family attached, or essentially townhomes, as a particular fee. As we've talked about the industrial park category 130, we can certainly make sure that that's a core component of any updates.
Okay. So just a couple of things. One thing that I've already asked the team to consider as we're kind of narrowing down these numbers, if you will, is to make sure they're taking a look at that small business end user, if you will, someone that might be in a commercial neighborhood strip plaza that wants to open up a little family restaurant, those little cute restaurants that you have in the Publix plazas that always have great food. They're family owned and operated. So just to share that with you guys, that's something that I've asked them to specifically definitely take a look at. Additionally, I want to take a harder look at our retail, commercial, industrial. This is a tool to help incentivize what we want and decentivize, if you will, what we don't want. I think for me, we want to continue on the trend of ensuring that people have places to work inside the county. I think it was Sean Mitchell when he first came on. I remember him saying it was something like almost 80 or 90% of the people went outside of the county. Because of all the work that collectively all of us have been doing, including the EDC and the local governments, have whittled that down to 63, 64%. Still a lot of work to do, obviously, but it's a move in the right direction. So for me, again, I want to make sure that we're continuing to take a look and make sure that we're inviting and welcoming economic development here. And from there, we need to look and see exactly, again, what kind of economic development do we still, are the targeted industries still what we want to target, or do we want to prioritize more IT, headquarter jobs, less distribution? So these are the things that I'm taking a look at and considering. Daycare centers. We have a lack of daycare centers. It's very hard to get an existing building and bring it up to code in a reasonable amount of money. So that's something that I want to look at.
Madam Chair.
At the end of the day, there's a couple things everyone spoke on, and I agree that sins of the past, no, we cannot fund deficiencies or make up for previous, in my eyes, maybe not the best decisions. That's going to be on us to make up that deficit. But that being said, it also isn't lost on me that we've heard some comments basically with those decisions of not raising them up 100%. Now those past decisions are getting thrown back at us because we didn't raise them up. So as far as everyone's here, everyone that's on this board, I am still doing my due diligence. I'm still having conversations. I just sat and talked with Ashley Capital again yesterday. I met for 3 hours with Holiday Builders. It's a little disconcerting to hear some people get up and say that they've spoken to everyone because you have not spoken with me. And so if you haven't spoken with all 5 of us, then you haven't spoken with everyone. And I can tell you, I mean, especially speaking for me, and I feel like I can speak for everyone that's up here, is we are here to listen. We are here to hear what you have to say. But I would also welcome you to not just say what you don't like, but to come in with ideas. So what are those pro-business ideas? That's what makes good government, is this back and forth. Us understanding where you guys are coming from, and then you guys understanding the challenges that we face. So our Citizens Budget Committee, we have a letter. They want us to raise them the full amount. Your President's Council in South Beach, they want us to raise them the full amount. Go on social media, talk to any resident. They want us to raise them whatever we can to help bring down development. That being said, I also agree and understand exactly where you guys are coming from. So for me, what I would like, again, need to hear from everyone, but I think we are not in a huge rush. I think we consider, obviously, providing the team with the input that they need today as much as possible, but pushing this till either November or December for a final date to decide to really make sure that we understand the data. I have some issues. I have some questions about the methodology. It seems like we're using residential methodology. Is there not different methodology for commercial versus industrial? Again, I'm hearing we're citing growth, but impact fees are what pays for the growth. So I'm having a little trouble, saying that is something that meets the extraordinary circumstances. And I also want us to take a look at the list of the roads. If the roads that we're including are roads that are 15, 20, 25 years out, I think they need to come out so that the numbers can be recalculated. Hold on, I know Commissioner Clasby, you're hot to get on here, but I want to make sure I get all of my stuff real quick before you derail me. Let's see. Also, do we have the definition of a net new impact?
I mean, net impact cost?
Net new impact, is that defined?
That is the difference between the cost of the growth and what they contribute from other revenue sources.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Clasby?
I was gonna, are we still in public comment, or did we close that?
I left it open in case anyone wants to come back up. I mean, I know it's a little unorthodox, but
I just
we
wanted to.
have folks here that are in the industry, and I want to hear from them. So no, I technically didn't close public comment.
I'm just saying, because I have a lot of comments. I've been talking about impact fees since I was a young permit tech. But I just wanted to, I want to make my comments after the public comment period's over.
Okay, so with that, is there anyone else that would like to, Jill's coming on up. Good morning.
Thank you very much for always deliberating and listening to us. We appreciate. Thank you all for your time, for meeting with us, because this is a big issue. Staff, thank you for coming out to the Kings Highway Corridor. We appreciate you. I think we were nice to you, so everybody behaved. You said something that regarding the Citizens Committee and others that are making comments, and I thought this was appropriate to leave on. Impact fees are a one-time impact, right? One time. And they give you a sucker punch, right, when you have to do it, because you have to pay it on the front end of a project, and then you have to figure out how to make that last throughout the project. And for us, we lease space. So at the end of the day, I know everybody says development has to pay for itself, but the end of the day is the folks are paying for it, right? Our tenants are going to pay for it. We can't just absorb it. But there's some interesting facts that I want to share. The impact of IFFI is a one-time impact, but the tax impact is forever. And in St. Lucie County, and this is a DOR2 if anyone wants to look, sorry, I don't have my glasses, so I'm doing it like this. 39.7% of your residential base is homestead, which means their cap on tax is 3%. 30.9% is non-homestead. So that's part of your residential tax base. That's your ad valorem. So more than half of your residential tax base is homestead, where they're capped at 3%. Buy your house, pay your taxes, you're capped at 3% in perpetuity, and then you have your homestead exemptions. In comparison to those of us that are in commercial and industrial, 8.5% is commercial of your tax base, 4.4% is industrial. The most interesting figure that people forget is that industrial pays TPP. 10.9% of your taxes come from what's inside the buildings, what's inside the warehouse buildings, what's inside the manufacturing buildings, what's inside your commercial buildings. It's almost as much as the real property at 14%. And that's in perpetuity. So even though everyone's looking at this one-time impact for roads, we are consistently giving by our tenants, by the businesses that are here over and over again. And we are able to be increased at 10%, not at 3%. We also don't get any homestead exemptions to our tenants and for us as developers. Yes, you do have incentives for certain projects. As a developer like us, we build spec. We're in it to win it, right? We're here, we're paying up front, and at the end of the day, we gotta hope for the very best that Ryan and I do our job, otherwise we'll be coming over here to the county, get some employment. But I really think that's important for folks to realize, especially those that are on the island or those that are making comments. You know, yes, everybody has to pay, but we are paying our fair share, more than enough, over the long term of these projects that we're bringing to St. Lucie County. And so, yes, we agree, development has to pay. We're not arguing that there would be an increase, but we just want to make sure that we have, we just want to make sure that we have the time to continue to work with staff and to continue to work with leadership and bring these other facts into the equation when we're looking at numbers long term. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw you walk in. We also have Councilman Curtis Johnson with us.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I had not planned to speak, but I wanted to raise a couple points. Thank you, Chair Fowler, for having a conversation with me last night regarding this. I do thank you for that, and I thank all of you. I don't envy you for the position you're in. We're making some of the same tough decisions as a city commission when it comes to roadways and infrastructure when it comes to the city of Fort Pierce. I stand before you as a lifetime resident here and represent the generation of people that were born and raised here in the city of Fort Pierce. Comments that were made earlier concerning people from different categories not wanting to see growth here concerns me. It is that growth that we need here to lift the generational poverty level to up above where we currently stand. There are generations here who have not the benefit of great industry jobs because of the loss of citrus many, many years ago. And citrus kept us at a lower wage state. And now we have the capacity to grow that. I'm concerned. I do understand there has to be growth in impact fees. I would highly implore that we look at some type of phasing. We look at the industries that we really do need here. We need light industrial, we need commercial to bring our wages up. Let's look at how we can phase it across that. And if we look at the housing aspects of it, there are some parts of this community, i.e. the inner urban feel, that we've been trying to actually raise and get good homes there at home values that would provide a workforce that can live here and work here. And so I would just implore you to consider all of those facts and the decisions that you're going to make and just say, how do we phase this in? To go from 0 to 100 is a little concerning in what I'm hearing, and some of those rates were quite alarming. So, like I said, I work with you on a number of these things, from the transportation to building fire stations. We all have those challenges here, and prices are increasing each and every day. But I think the more we can figure out a way to phase this stuff in and bring the public along to help them understand and to help our new residents of this area understand that we're not going to stop growth completely, but we're going to have controlled, sustainable growth with the mission of providing great income and housing for the people here who've been here most of their generation in life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Wes.
Good morning, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak on this subject today, and also want to thank staff. They did a fantastic job at the Kings Highway Corridor, going through the rationale of the impact fee increases that are proposed, explaining the nuances of the study and some of the feedback they were looking for from the development community as well as from yourselves as that study moves forward. You've heard a number of comments this morning. A lot of them I think are very, very relevant. You've definitely got a tough decision on this subject. I don't envy you at all. Certainly understand the need for raising impact fees to deal with increased growth. One thing that I think is to consider as you weigh this study and how to move forward is there were some comments made regarding the success that we've had with our economic development partnership, bringing new industry into the county over the last couple of years. And what I would tell you is weigh those successes, weigh some of the comments that you've heard today about a one-time fee versus taxes being forever when those industries do decide to locate here in the county. That landscape for economic development is very competitive, and a lot of times when companies are considering communities, they don't make it off the desktop because they're looking at things like cost, things like workforce. We've been fortunate to make it off that desktop and get companies to come here to St. Lucie County, and want to keep that momentum going because that momentum is just getting started. So appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and again, I don't envy you on your decision with this. Thank you.
Thanks.
May I have your name, please?
Wes McCurry, St. Lucie Economic Development Council.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else for public comment on this item? Going once, going twice. All right, I'm closing public comment. I'll come back to Commissioner Clasby.
Madam Chair, on this item, something that I've been involved with for a long time. Previous careers and jobs, I was actually a permit tech, so I had to be the one to calculate what our impact fees were for specific projects, and they've been a pain for a while. They are necessary, but if we wanted to get down to it, some of these studies that show that we need extraordinary circumstances for impact fees seem to be the same studies that would show we shouldn't have done a future land use change from agricultural to something more intense. So hopefully we take that into consideration in the future. So, but as far as these fees go, I mean, I can make it very simple. I'm not interested in any of the fees going above 25% in any particular category. I think that there could be more discussions of individual categories of what should be more or less, but if you wanted to put a number on it, that's where I'm at. And as far as how townhouses versus single-family detached are treated, I would like to see townhouses treated the same as single-family attached, meaning that they're not less impact fees, but perhaps even more. I think that we've been inundated with townhouses in our area, and I think that they do not provide the same quality of life that single-family detached residence does. And to kind of play on some of the commentary I've heard at some of the planning and zoning meetings, I think Ed Lowndes, Planning and Zoning Commissioner, said that impact should be treated the same across the board. So I'm not sure that I'm interested in having discounts for specific types of residential development, very low income, low income. I think that residential development should be treated the same. Just because you're in a residential low income neighborhood doesn't mean you're making any less impact on the community than you are in a regular neighborhood. In addition to that, I would like to see that the 130 ITE be treated differently than the others to try to make sure we have those in the code so that way we're not having a detrimental impact to the Kings Highway corridor. And maybe even in the future, after the impact fees are set to what they're going to be, we consider areas of opportunity by ordinance that we could incentivize impact fee moratoriums, discounts in specific areas of targeted interest. Those are my comments at this point in time.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lee?
So yes, I have heard a lot of talk on the impact it's going to have, and I couldn't agree more, good or bad. As far as implementing these fees, I am on the boat of spreading them out over a 4-year period so that they are not all at once. I do have a major concern on the commercial side of it. Commissioner Johnson, I think you hit the nail on the head. We need growth. In job corridors, we need growth in income. As far as the number of people that are traveling out of the county, I will push back on that a little bit. I am in real estate. Admittingly, I haven't done much in the last 2 years, but I will say when I was in, the majority of people that were buying homes, especially in the southern Port St. Lucie, were coming up out of Palm Beach. And it was because of our home prices were $100,000, $150,000 less than our neighboring counties. That being said, I know that we also have a affordability problem because of our wages. And that is where the economic growth has got my concern and my antennas sky high. I do not want to cut that out. I want to improve it. The generational families that we have here, along with new residents coming in, they need good paying jobs, and we don't have that. And I am doing everything in my power to bring that in. But as far as the residents, I've heard for the last 15 years they need to pay for growth. We're getting a little bit of pushback on why we didn't raise them back in '22. This board wasn't on it, or at least these 4 weren't on it. But I can also see why. We were in the middle of COVID. We had no idea what was going on. We didn't want to stop growth, and so they cut back on that. Should we raise them back up? I do believe we need to raise them up. Another point I would like to make, and I think we have these numbers, what are the comparisons on the surrounding counties? I do not want to lose the job corridor to CERTA especially, and I need to be able to look at the other counties and see where they're going to run to that are going to be less, that are going to be approved by, or not approved, but acceptable for the companies coming in. I'm not sure there's going to be a huge difference between those. I don't know. So I would like to see those numbers on the surrounding counties' impact fees again, so we don't lose the creation of the jobs. But as far as the impact fees on the residents, I do believe they need to go up. And I would like to see them phased in over a period of time. So with that being said, I do agree with Commissioner Chair Fowler. I do believe we need some more time to look at this. We need some more time to talk the entities involved that it's going to impact, and let's make the right decision.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lowry.
I think we're all kind of in the same mindset here, especially myself. When I think about coming into the seat, wanted to slow development or manage growth, so you would think I'd be all for raising those impact fees to the highest extent. However, I don't feel like this is the approach to slow growth. I don't necessarily agree that these are extraordinary circumstances, and I'm concerned about what will happen if we use this approach. Driving up the market, raising these fees, it's going to affect affordability for people. And especially how it's going to affect our local economy when it comes to business. It is very concerning. One good point Commissioner Fowler brought up was, and I totally agree 100%, is looking at the study as far as how many years out we're looking at the roads. I don't want to look too far out, like 20, 30 years, and make it a shorter shorter study. I don't know how far out we're looking right now. But, I really feel like we need some time, and November, December date for making this decision is very appropriate. There's a lot of risks here, and I don't want it to be a decision that we're making literally. I appreciate staff has worked so hard. We keep coming back. You guys have been incredible as far as reaching out to the community, but I really think there's a lot of things we need to really focus on, and extraordinary circumstances for me at these high increases is just a little much. So I look forward to possibly seeing if we can hold this out, and I think we're kind of all in the same agreement here.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clasby.
I'm prepared to make a motion if we're ready. I'll make a motion to continue to the second hearing to December 2nd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter. And between now and then, we maybe have an informal meeting to continue the discussions and staff work to take into account the comments that we've made here this evening.
Okay, that's good. Really quick though, I just want to make sure, because there was a lot of items that they were looking for feedback on. So your motion addresses the adoptions, so we'd be looking at a December date. Commissioner Lee brought up phasing in of fees. I also would be in favor of phase in regardless of where we land. Commissioner Clasby, Commissioner Lowry, is there support for that as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're unanimous on that. You're going to provide us with the additional land use categories just so we can take a look. However, right out the gate, I also would like to make sure we add in that Commerce Park, especially since now Kings Highway is our new jobs corridor. The other thing too, Mayor Hudson made an excellent point. Taking a look at the infill lots to see what we can do there to maybe incentivize the development on those pieces of property.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby made an excellent motion, and with that, we were going to suggest a lot of the same stuff that you suggested, as well as, I think you mentioned something about areas of opportunity. We'll research that, things of that nature. In there, I think probably what staff's going to do is go back and rewatch this about 100 times like we normally do to make sure we capture everything that was discussed from the public.
I was trying to avoid that. That's why I was trying to summarize at the end.
We
haven't
probably
been
still
doing,
will.
It's my fault. I haven't been doing a great job of that, so I'm trying to make sure that they don't have to spend more time watching what they already sat through.
It helps crank up our views too when we do it. Just
Oh, is that it? Okay.
No. But with that,
Well, watch away.
and he did what he read our mind, because we were going to suggest that informal, probably probably the November informal, to give us time well before the December meeting to come back for you. So I think we're on a good path.
Excellent. Okay. So with that, our county administrator is telling me to stop talking. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second.
Madam Chair.
Oh.
One more thing, I would like to add into the list Kings Landing, Oak Ridge Ranches, the developments that are already on the board, and what that's going to look like and what it's going to affect with these raises.
Okay.
And second.
All right. So a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. And that concludes that. Everyone that was here pertaining to the multimodal, I urge you, if you have not had a one-on-one conversation with the 5 of us, please do so. Call us, make an appointment, come see us. We'll meet you for coffee, we'll have lunch, we'll do whatever you want. We want to hear from you. So thank you for being here. I'm just going to give them a few minutes just to exit, and then we'll jump right into the regular agenda. All right. All right, so with that, we're moving into the regular agenda, and we'll send it over to our interim county attorney.
Madam Chair, for the record, Interim County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. Before you is an interlocal agreement with the tax collector for cost sharing for the county-owned building located 881 South US Highway 1. We purchased it in June of this year. The intent right now is to at least move the tax collector and the veteran services in from the Dorothy Conrad Annex building, which we are selling to Port St. Lucie. The tax collector has generously agreed to cost share up to $6 million for the build out of it. His space will need to be built out, and the intent is to build a second floor on there, not where it's usable, but just so that it can be used in the future. And so this is just the interlocal setting up the basic parameters between us and the tax collector.
All right, perfect. Any questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, second one.
The second one is a opioid litigation settlement request. This is with the secondary manufacturers. It's that we can participate in. It's the generic drug manufacturers, and our outside counsel is recommending that we participate in the settlement.
All right. Questions, comments? If not,
Madam
motion.
Chair, very
Commissioner
quickly.
Klasky, absolutely.
Do we have numbers on how much money we're receiving from this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, so currently we've got about somewhere in the neighborhood around $6 million that we've received between regional and county funds, and the currently the regional committee, the opioid task force that was set up for the regional, has RFAs out there for submittals for folks to come in. It's part of the MOU with the state. We have to put out a competitive bid for those agencies to come in to get that, to be able to spend that money, towards those services. So that's currently happening right now, and we're on track. And I'm sure in the coming months we'll be back before you with some contracts for local agencies to help mitigate the opioid issues that we're having out there. And then we're also exploring ways with the county funds on a few things with our health department, fire department, sheriff's department, and some of the other local issues.
Okay, thank you. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, again, Interim County Attorney Catherine Barbieri. The third one is the First Amendment to the work authorization for the contract with Eden Drittenboss for the architectural services for the 8881 building. This is now, the other one was the space needs. This is to design it, and we're asking that you approve it.
Okay, questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and now we're going to go into our Homeless Advisory Committee, the annual report. Good morning.
And Madam Chair, Jen Hans promised to keep it under an hour and a half.
Okay.
We got all day.
Are we doing pizza or what are we doing? Who's buying? No.
Mission barbecue, just saying.
Got to enjoy the last daytime meeting that we'll have in a while.
All right. All right. Good morning, Chair Fowler, Commissioners, and Administration. For the record, Jennifer Hance, Community Services Director. With me, I have Assistant Community Services Director Daniel Ramos. He is our resident homeless extraordinaire. A lot of pressure. Today, we're presenting the Homeless Advisory Committee's annual report. The committee was established in 2022 to advise on strategies, funding, and policy solutions to address homelessness in St. Lucie County. As of this morning's consent agenda, the committee is made up of 14 members representing government, housing, schools, nonprofits, mental health providers, the business community, faith-based partners, and people with lived experience. I'd like to recognize the committee members. They are not here today. They're all doing their day jobs, but they've taken a lot of time to participate in this. Commissioner Kathy Townsend, Councilman Anthony Bana, Commissioner Arnold Gaines, Jennifer Harris, Kylie Furr, Ramey Knuckles, Debbie Hawley, Martin Golick, Anna Marie Suarez, Paris Brady, Chanel Bonner, and we do have a vacant position, someone with lived experience, if you know of anybody interested. We have 4 focus groups, target groups that the HAC is currently looking at those who are chronically homeless, veterans, seniors, and families with minor children. Outreach efforts specifically regarding street outreach and community education. Ongoing efforts are one, to increase affordable housing, create solutions for unsheltered homeless, help clients secure successful employment, and learn from persons with lived experience. So who's better to help us navigate the situation than people who have actually experienced it themselves? Also, coordinated entry. Established 3 distinct county-based coordinated entry systems to operate under a single unified protocol. Established and prioritized key criteria for housing prioritization and scoring, and currently refining the assessment tool to develop a new, more equitable version.
Yep. Okay, morning. So every year in January, the local homeless continuum of care, led by the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, conducts a 24-hour period point-in-time count. With the help of community partners and volunteers, different teams are formed to conduct the count. This information, of course, is shared with HUD. This past count showed a decrease in persons surveyed. Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council attributes the decrease in persons counted due to an increase in housing placements that they have focused on and made throughout the year. However, it's important to remember that the point-in-time count is a snapshot. It's a 24-hour time period that starts usually the 4th week of January, usually noon on Thursday to noon on Friday. And so where folks are going, it is voluntary that they can participate. So oftentimes during that time period, because also the homeless population is transient, you may not find them. So usually the point-in-time count is that snapshot number, but usually more or less between 25 to 40%. And some communities even higher, it's the actual count of homeless persons there. But we did see a decrease, as we mentioned. Another data set that the committee focused on getting or putting together this year was from law enforcement agencies. So data was collected for 2024 and year-to-date in 2025. The data shows that law enforcement interactions with homeless persons is increasing, both on the street and the jail count. Of course, the jail count, that's self-reported. One of the goals the committee has by adding a law enforcement seat is to collect better data and to have uniform data sets amongst the 3 law enforcement agencies so that it can assist the continuum of care with programmatic services and planning. Law enforcement is a valuable partner to the continuum of care as they often assist with street outreach efforts and they know where folks are out there. The next slide or page is the Housing Hub data. So since its inception in fiscal year 23, the Housing Hub has served 281 individuals with a 79% number of positive exits from the shelter. This is an exceptional number. The national standards range anywhere between 35 and 45%. So the fact that we're at 79%, that's pretty impressive. 30% of the individuals served at the Housing Hub are and were veterans during that time period. Another impressive number that we wanted to include in the report was that since the inception of the program, only 1 person has returned to the shelter for placement. So the recidivism rate with just 1 is pretty impressive. The next page, we looked at data from the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council. This past year, the Treasure Coast Homeless Service Council reports that they served over 700 individuals with their range of services that include rental assistance, SOAR screenings, SNAP benefit enrollments, shelter and referrals. And overall, they reported a 13% increase in services provided in St. Lucie County. On the next page, we looked at continuum of care data. And by the way, I've referenced the local continuum of care several times, and I'd like to clarify what the continuum of care is. It's the local homeless continuum of care is a group of organizations that serve in some capacity persons experiencing homelessness. Every community receiving HUD funding for homeless services must have a COC. They have a governing body, and they discuss homeless issues, programming, and funding. In 2024, the COC provided almost $2 million in services that included housing, utilities, case management, health and food, providing over 51,000 services to over 51 households. Right.
We do have a representative on the Homeless Advisory Committee from the school board, so I'd like to highlight some of the work that the school board has done as well with their homeless population or homeless students. Approximately 2,600 students were identified as homeless in school year 24-25. 642 students received backpacks, clothing, and shoes. Little over 1,300 of them got holiday bags distributed. There were 119 families that received case management services, and 232 school district employees and 252 community partners went through McKinney-Vento training. Also, they passed out 125 slide packets to students, and the school board continues to be an integral part of the Homeless Advisory Committee. So some new initiatives that we've undertaken, I'm sure you all are aware of, is Graceway Village. Graceway Village will construct the Family Restorative Shelter to provide temporary shelter for families with minor dependent children. And the first phase of the project will include 10 private family units with private bathrooms, classrooms, communal areas, laundry, and administrative offices. In addition, 24/7 staffing and case management will also be provided. Staff's currently in the process of drafting a funding and development agreement with Graceway Village. Also is the Veteran Shelter. You're all very familiar with the Veteran Shelter. In June of 24, we purchased a old motel called the Relax Inn, North US 1, and it will consist of 13 units with a private bathroom, meals, wraparound services, case management, transportation, veteran services available, and housing and financial support. So currently we are expecting to receive a second set of plans from the design architect that incorporate the comments that were given by the Development Review Committee, and hope to put the project out to bid within the next 30 days or so, with a turning dirt hopefully by January.
Okay. So with all the great things and initiatives happening in our community, there are still challenges. Among those challenges are affordable housing, household income. And the committee also looked at data from the Out of Reach report provided by the National Low Income Housing Coalition and the annual ALICE report. So it lets us know that there's still plenty of work to be done. Additional challenges identified by the committee include limited funding for services, limited access to mental health and substance use disorder services, fragmented service delivery and siloed agencies, employment barriers, and long-term housing stability. So moving forward, the committee will be focused on building and fostering stronger partnerships and collaboration, work to identify funding dedicated to homeless services, housing, educating the community on homelessness, and data collection that will assist in making informed decisions. And as far as next steps for the committee, in addition to adding 2 new seats, which are law enforcement and faith-based, and the reason for that is because we've even had conversations as far as safe parking, where we know a lot of folks that are unhoused at the moment, they're sleeping in their vehicles at nighttime, and so safe parking is a model that has taken place in different parts of the country and usually is initiated by the faith-based community, and then law enforcement provides the safety, and really is the idea so that folks are not criminalized or anything like that. They can have a place to go, but then also there's wraparound services, case management services that are offered to them there to get them housed as quickly as possible. So by adding those 2 seats, we hope that we can accomplish that if need be. Partner with county libraries in data collection, as they have seen an increase in homeless persons visiting the libraries. And we also are going to continue to collaborate with the school district in addressing homelessness needs in our schools.
With that concludes our presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby.
I just want to say thank you guys for presenting this today. It's been very educational for me to go through this, but I know you guys put a lot of work into this. I wanted to make sure you guys had the opportunity to present it yourselves and to make sure that the public's aware of it as well. We usually get a lot of things on our agendas, and most people don't download the packet and go through it. So hopefully we can get some more exposure to some of the good things you guys are doing in the community.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Good work. And then we have Ben with the administrative approval updates.
Good morning again, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director, for the record. Oh, wrong button. This agenda item, 12C1, is simply a discussion item. We're going to go over the administrative approvals that occurred in the month of August. We have 2 of those projects to go over this morning. The first is a minor site plan located at 5593 St. Lucie Boulevard. It is on the south side of St. Lucie Boulevard between Keene Road and Hammond Road. The parcel is in the Industrial Light Zoning District, and the site plan approved a 4,100 square foot metal building with another 8,500 square foot metal building proposed in Phase 2. The business on site is planned to be a manufacturer of recycling equipment, including conveyors and sorting machines, and they serve customers across the U.S. and Canada. The next project is a minor site plan approval for an 8-lot subdivision on the northwest corner of Kelly Road and Header Canal Road. This board approved a road paving waiver for the project in May. The 8-lot subdivision is within the Agricultural 5 zoning district, and each lot is proposed at just over 9 acres. The project includes a 35-foot right-of-way dedication along Kelly Road, and all lots are accessed through shared access easements either from Header Canal Road or Kelly Road, as you can see on the screen. And that concludes the administrative approvals for the month of August. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions?
No, Ben.
No? All right, thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much.
All right, and with that, we'll come over to Commissioner comments. In terms of having a follow-up conversation at an informal or a separate meeting to talk about the impact fees, a couple dates in November suggested, see if there's a majority of the board here. So November, we have the November 4th, which is the regular 6 o'clock meeting where we could potentially have that discussion. Or November 18th is our reorganization, which is typically pretty quick since there's no one coming in or out. So we could certainly, after we do reorg, have the conversation at that point. So I don't know if there's a preference.
Could you say those dates one more time?
November 8th, which should be a Tuesday. We discuss it at as part of the
November
regular
4th,
meeting.
Madam Chair, sorry.
November 4th is an election day, I think, is it not?
The Fort Pierce Special, Interim County Attorney Catherine Barbieri, Fort Pierce Special Election will be happening, but not until at 7 o'clock that night, but I believe that's the only thing on for that day.
I'll be busy during the day that day. Even though we have the meeting at 6 that night, but.
Okay. So then would you be for the 18th or for November 18th after we complete reorganization? Does that work?
That works for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good date.
Commissioner?
Good for me.
Okay, so let's plan then on November 18th after reorganization, having a follow-up conversation.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
the
We'll-
multimodal.
We'll schedule and notice the special informal workshop to talk about impact fees for after, immediately following reorg.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, and with that, we come into commissioner comments, if any.
I have none.
I'm sure.
Commissioner Klasky?
So I was looking to see if we could get consensus from the board to direct staff to identify a major roadway in St. Lucie County that we could rename after Charlie Kirk in memorial of him. Looking to see if I could get consensus from majority of the board to direct staff to do that at this point.
I've never thought of that.
So this is not something I've specifically come up with. This is going to be something that's going around the entire country. There's a big push for every county in America to have a highway named after him.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Lowry?
I think that's a beautiful idea. I'm sure other counties and states across the country will be doing so.
I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I guess my to play devil's advocate, I would say, shouldn't we have a road named after President Trump before someone
You can
else?
propose that, but I'm just saying, at this point, I'm just trying to get consensus to direct staff. I've already had some preliminary conversations with them, but, you know, we have to do it as a board to
Mhm.
direct them.
Commissioner Lee, any thoughts?
No thoughts at this time. Well, there's a lot of thoughts. I just don't want to express them.
Perhaps then maybe what we do, I would just like to have a little more time to think about it.
Yeah.
What's our next informal?
I think it's the October.
Oh, sorry, I have the list,
yeah.
don't I?
I think October is coming up here in a few weeks.
Okay, so that should be a short conversation. Shall we just plan to add that for the October informal and then?
And if so, if you want to just have the conversation, or if you want staff to look at any potential,
Have any roads in mind?
yes,
Okay.
that could potentially qualify for something like that. Because I'm sure if we pick certain roads, they might have other levels of approval behind just this board. So we'd have to look at that as well. So I can get with Public Works to get an idea on what that could or could not look like.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
All right, thank you. And also, we had talked previously about banning kratom in St. Lucie County. And I'm under the understanding that the state of Florida Attorney General and others have banned a certain type of kratom, but it's not all kratom. Do we have any update on, are we moving forward with something additional, or?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, so we were kind of circling the runway, basically waiting on Clint from the Health Department, because what he had sent over seemed to indicate that it took care of what the board's initiative was, but I'll follow back up with him and see if that did not meet the intent of the board based on that, and we would come back around. But he had thought that what the state did covered us for what we were trying to get accomplished. But
It's my opinion that, you know, all kratom is not banned currently. It's only, I'm not a user of it, so I don't know the exact name, but it's like OH something. It's essentially a synthetic opiate. And I'd like to see it removed from all the shelves in St. Lucie County, personally, even the stuff that wasn't banned through that. So if we could maybe continue that discussion or find out what is still out there, because I think it's still an unknown as far as what's banned and what's not banned. Just maybe get a formal update on that. And then that's all that I have at this time.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lau.
I have a little to input on that. I've been in contact with other professionals that work with addiction, and, you know, if we have the authority to ban all kratom in St. Lucie County, I'm 120% on board with it. It's highly addictive. I think the current ban through the state is you can't purchase it under the age of 21, but I really don't think that's enough, because we have an elderly population that probably a lot of us aren't aware of that are getting addicted to it because there's not easy access to pain medication, because, you know, there's such a stringent, it's difficult to get pain medication that they need it. So, you know, and it's addictive, and there's so much more we don't know about it. So if we have the authority to ban it, I am right behind Commissioner Clasby and think that it's something that we need to take, you know, into serious consideration.
Gotcha. Okay. And any other commissioners? No? Okay. So with that, Mr. Landry, we're going to send it over to you for our upcoming meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will hold a final budget hearing on Thursday, September 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. The Board of County Commissioners will also hold a regular board meeting on Tuesday, October 7th at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. And lastly, the Board of County Commissioners will hold an informal meeting on Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 at 9 a.m. here in these commission chambers, all located at 2300 Virginia Avenue here in Fort Pierce. And Eric will handle the final announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Don't miss the 10th annual anniversary of the Indian River Lagoon Science Festival on Saturday, October 25th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Veterans Memorial Park, which is part of the Riverwalk Center located at 600 Indian River Drive in downtown Fort Pierce. This free event of discovery promises to be a blast for the whole family, with dozens of hands-on and minds-on activities that explore the wonders of science, technology, engineering, art, and math, also known as STEAM. Exhibitor registration and volunteer opportunities are available online at irlsciencefest.org, and this is a program that the county has been involved with for the last decade. We usually have several departments there, including Oxbow Eco Center, ERD, mosquito control, and the libraries.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. And with that, we are adjourned. Go get some lunch.
I thought it was nighttime.